There we go.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me. If you can, please let me know. And also, we're still kind of finagling through. Wait, can y'all hear me? I don't know. Am I live?
Yeah, well, I think you're live because it says live on my side.
Late? No, we're not late. We started exactly on time. We literally started precisely on time. Okay, good. And yeah, please let me know how sound is. We'll let Andy just chat for a minute. Andy, how have you been? How have you been the last 3 days since our last thing?
I've been really good, but I've got to briefly pause because I've got my own voice coming into my ears because apparently I've got the window open somewhere.
Oh, that's always fun. You play whack-a-mole with that. Well, hello. Glad y'all can hear me and see me. Okay, so before we get into it, just a quick thing of that. In case you don't know, we are going to be. This is part 2 of the reaction series to all the Total War goodies. So last time we managed to basically get through all the Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2 with little tiny tidbits of 3. Like I think we got the main Warhammer 3 trailer and like the most recent Tarmacon stuff. So today we're going to be hammering our way through Warhammer 3, and then that shouldn't take us too long. So then from there, we should be able to go into some of the other relevant things that came out that are like in-game cinematics and stuff like that. Like there are some cool things that we can look at from promotional footage for Warhammer 3, as well as some of the stuff that was in for Warhammer 1. Just because, a lot of people don't play those games anymore, and there's some really cool things in there that I think are worth looking at, especially when it comes to the good old Dodgy Johan.
Johan.
He had some phenomenal cinematics in the first game.
He really did. I remember them well.
Yeah, so we're going to start here in just a sec. I do want to welcome you all and hope that you're all having fun with Thrones of Decay, as that just came out, patch 5.0, and a lot of people seem to be having a really good time with that. So hopefully you're enjoying yourselves, and I imagine many of you are probably playing that with us on in the background. Would not surprise me.
I hope so, because, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Over on my side, I'm about to get started on Total War as well. I'm just waiting for the council to come along because, council people to approve the building that we've finished in our back garden. I'll probably do a quick, video of it in the next day or two, just because it's pretty.
Yeah, you should do a little tour.
Yeah, do a little tour. It's just like it's a little room and it's got a little toilet off it. And that's about it. But nevertheless, it's going to be my new home. And I'm going to have my mega powerful PC in there playing Total War like mad and doing my normal, usual ranting into the internet like the Warhammer chap that I am.
There you go. All right. So without further ado, I think we... Jaka asking if the council's going to send all 13 of them?
13.
And remember the that council.
That would be one hell of a visit. They're probably all named Andy.
Yeah, probably. That does not remind me, but I don't know why it caused my brain to pop. For those that prefer Lorebeards to be through an audio format as opposed to a visual format, and you like to have it on your favorite podcasts and stuff, I'm officially caught up. So I did that because I know some people were asking about that. So we're caught up on all the episodes. They will be coming out every day at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time until, you're all caught up. So for those of you that prefer the podcast version, you've got lots of good stuff to look forward to, because we were behind by I think I uploaded like 6 episodes. Yeah. All right. Let's knock out any super chat stuff.
It's not behind. It's just you do it in batches.
Yeah. It's we don't get paid for it. If anything, I'm paying for it. So it'll get there when it gets there. All right. I'm going to get caught up on little super chat stuff here, and then we'll get started. Sartor, I've been having a blast with Malachi finding Doom. Yeah, he's pretty terrible at doing that. He's a little too busy inventing things. Oh, that reminds me also as well. The next Lorebeards vote is up on my channel already. If you want, please go vote on that, where we're going to be talking about the 3 main factions and characters that got featured in Thrones of Decay. So please be sure to check that out and vote. I think right now Malachi is winning, which would mean if he does win, then we will be doing a Malachi and talking about the throngs of Karakadrin and also focusing on like newer inventions like the Thunderbargers and Grudge Rakers and stuff. Which will be interesting because they'll kind of almost work as like a part 2 to the Slayer stream we did a while back.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So it'll be fun. But that is who's currently winning, and then the following week we would do whoever second place, which I think is Elspeth. So we would do Elspeth the Sunday after that with like Nuln, and that's gonna have a lot of really cool shit.
Yeah,
that's gonna have a lot of really cool shit because Nuln, like we're gonna essentially be like the Amethyst College, the Cult of Mor, and Nuln, which are 3 really good topics. And then of course that would then end off with Tarmakon and Nurgle and Mortal Champions and Mutants and all that stuff. But anyway, Hammond, what music does Oxioto listen to? Bok Bok Street Skinks. A skink boy band. Just with the
back. All right.
Goranshima, what's that box with the strange red mark behind you?
I mean, I wonder what might it be, but I will say, go pre-order Dark Deeds. You can do it right now. We have our copy in the background. It will be coming out from Modiphius in about a month or 2, so you can pre-order your own copy from Warhammer Legends.
And thank you, Hawk.
And Mark Evans.
Hawk being a king as always and posting those.
Oh, thanks, Hawk. You rock.
Hammond, what's Mazdamundi's favorite food? Bok Bok Choy. Yeah, I mean, it would. To be fair, it probably have bugs in it though, so never mind. Durthu's manservant. Don't type and eat. LOL. Oh, why did your first? Oh yeah, I got my sweet tea and cheesecake. I'm ready for everything for some trailers. Well, good. Cheesecake and sweet tea. That's a good combo.
That's a pretty good combo. All I've got is something to drink.
Aaron Streaver, about to start a Skaven game with our superior technology. Can our glorious warlord Andy Ratlog give your troops a brief speech?
A brief speech for, wait a minute, about you start your Skaven game with superior technology. Does that mean that you're going to be streaming across the internet to have your Skaven contact each other? I don't know. What would a good brief speech be?
I think he also is doing some Clan Skryre.
And Skyer.
So I don't know if there's any words of wisdom that an Andy Skaven would give to the Skaven of Clan Skyer.
Oh, Skyer. Never trust Skyer! No, never. That'll do.
Yeah, remember, the explosions aren't accidents.
It's the truth. Skyer the worst.
Most of the time, it's genuinely not. Who is the worst Slayer, Gotrek or Malachi? I would say technically, well, I would probably say Malachi actually, because I think he does not as good of a. He definitely does not do as quote unquote good of a job of actually pursuing his doom as Gotrek does. Bye, thanks so much for the bits. So excited for the Fishman trailer. What? I want to see the Fishman trailer.
Fishman trailer? Oh yeah, I'm ready for it.
Man, no. I want to watch a Fishman trailer. That would make me super happy. But Natalie, thank you guys so much for being here, Lord. It's my comfort streams. Thank you guys so much for being here whenever I feel down. Oh, well, hope you're feeling better, and we appreciate the sweet words, and keep on keeping on. We appreciate that.
Keep on keeping on, and thank you very much. And
I'm
delighted we can put a smile on your face.
We'll do the damned Skaven scribe react. We'll do it at the end. We'll do it the exact same as last time. Last time we ended with the goblin. This time we'll end with the Skaven.
Yeah, seems fair.
All right, and this is the last one. Then we're gonna get going. I've been gnomed. Now I need to figure out what to do with him in the old world. I'll be watching this while Malachi ventures on from Krakadrak. Oh yeah, that'll be the other fun aspect of the Malachi streams. We'll get to talk about the Norscan dwarfs, which would be really fun. Because rolling them in with Malachi, I don't think was a bad decision. It actually opens up some really interesting things that will be worth chatting about. But all right, so with that out of the way, we can go over to here. Good, looks good. Hopefully, y'all let me know. Hopefully, the trailer will sound fine. We'll see. And if it doesn't, we'll figure out what we're doing. So we left off last time with the.
Oh, so excited!
We left off with Warhammer, like really hard Warhammer 3. So, do we want to do the Sons of Kislev, or I think we'll skip the Sons of Kislev?
No, I mean, sure, okay,
yeah, because that should probably be its own thing. Because that ties into the prologue campaign, which I think should be the first thing Andy streams when he
I'm just
gets
going
his
to bring
Warhammer
up a
stuff
quick
up and running.
comment there and say that you're not finding it on Sotek's channel because it's over on the LAWhammer channel.
Yes.
If you want to see the first part, you'll find it over on the LAWhammer channel. We can drop links. I'll drop links to this video over on the LAWhammer one afterwards, and then links can be dropped up on this one.
Yeah. So yeah,
back to the first one
below.
afterwards. You know how these things work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hammond,
it's over on the LAWhammer channels.
If you would be so kind as to maybe post a link to the LAWhammer YouTube channel, that would be cool. All right. So I believe we are starting then with Trial by Fire.
Trial by Fire.
So I'm going to go ahead and get this up. We're going to crank the volume. I'm going to do this so I'm not glowing with all of the light of Hish. And there we go. That looks
Can you make it a bigger screen?
I can.
Oh, yes, you can.
All right. Here we go.
Kislev.
Let me know how it sounds, folks.
Good.
The motherland has turned her back on us. Exiled to a wasted land. Brothers and sisters betrayed. Whilst the meek cling to power. Is it just?
Sound is good. Nice.
Yeah, this
To be the bulwark the world relies on?
I really like the story told in this
Does
trailer.
it make us weak?
Love the ringlet.
To witness endless loss? Do we falter?
Oh, yeah, we still have the strange sound distortion.
No.
We do.
Yeah.
We are molded by it.
Seems like it's only on Twitch. Is YouTube it's fine.
Forged.
Oh, it sounds like there's a noise filter on.
Anvil of ice.
Hey, point blank.
Consumes us. But from the fire, we rise again.
It says activate the thing. So this trailer is super cool because they revealed the Realm of Chaos for the first time. This being the Realm of Corn. There it is.
Nice.
Yeah, so for those unaware, this was essentially one of the first trailers they revealed that kind of shows off Korn and Kislev simultaneously. It also was seeding kind of little hints about what the game was going to have in it. So like here you get to see the brass Citadel. Korn's one of his big places. I think it's the Brass Citadel, right? But here you can see, and of course, the big man himself, which it was fun. One of the things that was actually really interesting about Warhammer is there's some really famous art that's floating around of the Chaos Gods that's actually unofficial. Whereas in Total War, they actually got GW to dig up some official art of all 4 of the Chaos Gods. Because if you're playing the Realm of Chaos campaign, you get to the final big battle for each of the Dark Gods where you're fighting their big Demon Prince character. If you look up into the sky during the battle, there will be flashes of lightning and you'll see the gods themselves watching the battle. So Korn shows up here behind the actual Citadel itself. But yeah, this trailer is super fun. It ties very heavily into the prologue because it shows off the chaos corruption of this fellow, whose name I think someone in chat was saying his name, but I think is it Kurz? But he's a really interesting character that you don't get to spend a lot of time with because everything about him is in essentially these trailers. of that we have a Kislevite who we don't know exactly why, but he gets banished or exiled for some reason from Kislev, likely being either a like an Ungol guarding one of the outer passes or something, but he gets kicked out and forced into the north. And he's the guy talking, giving this whole speech about, is it just for us to get kicked out? And like, what do we do in despair? And his answer is that he turns to rage and he falls to Khorne and he becomes the big bad of the prologue, which is super duper fun.
The thing that amuses me most about him is whenever I look at him, I think he looks vaguely like Graham McNeil. He looks vaguely like Graham McNeil. He doesn't really look like Graham McNeil, but in my head, he looks vaguely like Graham McNeil. And if you didn't know, he's one of Black Library's most prolific authors, and indeed even wrote the Kislev books, the Ambassador Chronicles for the Black Library as well. Beyond all of the ridiculous amount of 40k books he's done, Horus Heresy included.
Yeah, but I actually really like, Slaven Kurz. Thank you. Yeah, Slaven Kurz. He's actually a very, very fun character that unfortunately they don't allow you to build up much time with him in game itself. You kind of have to watch all the trailers to get his full story of just the fact that he was quite literally essentially a boyar who, for political reasons, gets kicked out, likely having to do with the recent rise of the Great Orthodoxy under Kostaltin. And when he gets kicked out, he just loses it. And falls to Khorne. He plays a pivotal role in the whole plot to capture Urson, which is a whole fucking thing. Because he defended his job was that he defended the northern passes from the Chaos Waste into Kislev. He was way up, like around like the eastern steppes, and basically got told to F off. And so he decides to turn to Khorne instead of.
Well, if he was that close to turning, maybe they made the right choice.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
As choices go.
Yeah, his whole speech about is it fair that the southern realms or like the empire and stuff get to, like, you can see his perspective, but he definitely takes it a couple steps.
Maybe just a little bitty too far.
So actually, with that, let's go ahead and do Sons of Kislev. So this is the trailer introducing the prologue campaign, which is the really, really story-focused prologue they made, which is super duper fun.
Beauty, you have led your kin through the mountain pass. Once more, the light of Kislev shines.
So one thing I want to draw attention to really quick, just before we watch the whole thing, is that these two have very unique designs that aren't used by any of the characters in game, and that B, the funny thing about them is that Games Workshop made this whole, me and Andy talked about this on Lorebeard stream.
We did.
Games Workshop made this whole hubbub about like, oh, there's no like Gospodar Ungol like shenanigans, whatever. But the whole point of these two is that they're Ungol princes and that they face like a ridiculous amount of persecution because of it. With the short story that actually came out with the release of Total War Warhammer 3, having a scene of Prince Yuri here facing off with Kostaltin because Kostaltin like almost basically accuses him of being a heretic because he's in love with Katerin, because him and Princess or Tsarina Katerin now were kind of like, childhood friends to lovers when they were younger. And Kostaltin, the idea to him of a Ungol not only being a prince, which is bad enough, but being with the Tsarina and not in wedlock, the shame.
Hey, Arthur, I agree. But let's just move on. I shan't dwell on this one too much. I've written a lot of Ungol material in my time, and they don't look Ungol at all. But let's not dwell on that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
They look like Kislevites, I suppose.
Our comrades fear this land. Their doubt cannot stop us. We fight those who worship blood and fire. Match their rage with our own.
The fears of lesser men must not sway you from the righteous path. Offer no mercy. End his reign of bloodshed.
There he is!
You hold sin in your hand.
I hold strength in my hand.
Oh,
Our
Lord of the
journeys
Rings.
begun.
It's a gift.
Autumn, the snows. Together,
Ah.
we free Kislev of this winter.
Are you still my brother?
Yuri! Don't be a fool, Garrick. Does he not guide me?
Dead.
Find me, son of Kislev.
Just remember, guys, no matter how cool your god may be, if your god starts saying stuff like, don't worry about the fears of lesser men, carry on, maybe, just take a breather, right?
Just a little bit.
Listen to your Jiminy Cricket brother, maybe just a little bit. Just a little. Oh goodness. But yeah, the voice acting is superb. They also do a really fun thing with the prologue. If you haven't ever played it, I can't recommend it enough of at least one time playthrough. Like it is very, very fun. But now we get into the Enter the World trailers, which we're gonna do these slightly out of order because we're gonna do them the actual order they were released in, which is we'll do Kislev, Korn, and Zinch, and then we'll do the announcement trailer for Nurgle and Slanesh, and then we can do their interrupts. So we'll knock these out, and then
Looking forward to these.
Then we will we'll get caught up on super chats and stuff. So this is Into the World of Kislev.
We are the bulwark of the North. Behold the unyielding motherland. Through the teachings of the great orthodoxy, this world's end is kept at the bay. Our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, stand united
I
against
love
the
Ice
onslaught of
Ice.
chaos.
It is such a cool creature.
With the strength of Urson, the mighty bear.
Their
god,
wizards also got
and
really
the
good
power
animations.
of winter itself. There,
The gun action.
join us! Let's
Oh, the
go
ice
to
blood.
the ice court! Defend the legacy of Kislev!
Kislev! Ice
So-
magic-tastic.
Yeah, a couple of the really fun things is while there are elements that it would have been nice to see them dive a little harder into, like it would have been nice to see more like human design specifics between certain cultures within Kislev.
Let's bring that one up. Yes, we're aware the video is a little bit choppy because it is at this side, and the sound is a bit off as well. But we can live.
We'll make do. But one of the things that is really fun about this trailer in particular is that when this came out, it was really a big showcase for how Kislev had changed, which has only gotten kind of like even more so as the game has continued to go. Like the fact that Kislev has such a focus on elementals now, where they have like these spirits of the land rising over. You have the elemental bear, which of course is just a big elemental. And then this would later be reinforced with like the incarnate elemental of beasts, and like the frost worm and all these like creatures of the land that the ice court's able to call upon to answer their call, because like the magic is bound within them, like we kind of see with the ice lynx, which has just a beautiful design where it's got like this really
it's well
story. Awesome. And I really liked these concepts for Kislev because they were pretty different than what I was used to. Like I was expecting a lot of the gunpowder stuff, but the heavy focus on elementals and like creatures of the land being able to be summoned by which makes sense. Like their power comes from the land, so it's not a stretch at all that the Ice Court would all be able to call upon certain kinds of creatures and spirits as well. But it's just a really fun idea that I think added a lot to Kislev that wasn't necessarily there before, or was, but maybe not as explored as it could have been.
Yeah, I think that's fair because if you take a look at how Kislev has developed over time, if you look at, say, the first edition of it, all the way back in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay first edition, it was all about spirits and boggins and various other things from the Something Rotten in Kislev book, but very little of it we would recognize as what Kislev became later. When you take a look at how it was then developed in the novels, it was developed by Gav Thorpe for the Kislev Army List. Graham McNeil took it in another direction. Dan Abnett took it in yet another direction with Riders of the Dead, until eventually it came to Realm of the Ice Queen, where we took all of that, combined it together, and built an entirely new version of Kislev, which was all the existing lore all wrapped together with a nice little bow. And what this does is it takes everything that we wrote for that, and that was Graham McNeil, myself. Who else was doing that one? Steve D, who I think was on an earlier episode of Lorebeards as well. Yeah, totally. And anyway, we wrapped that all together in a nice bow, and then they've taken everything that was there and gone, well, what do we develop next? I think that's where Warhammer is always at its best, where something's had time to bed in, everyone looks at it and goes, you know what's really cool about that? This thing. And they take that and they add, and as is often the case with Warhammer, dial it up to 11. And I think everything from this absolutely fits with what we were writing, while simultaneously significantly adds on top of it. So yeah, love it.
I also just love that the Zargard are so burly and strong that this man can impale a Chaos Warrior through with his great weapon and pick him all the way up and slams him on the ground. Like, goddamn, what are his strength stats, baby?
That's proper crazy. Love it.
All right, so did we miss Enter Cathay? No, these are all the Warhammer 2 ones. I guess it's just coming up later. All right, so next we have Enter the World of Khorne.
Enter Khorne,
where we get to listen to the voice actor just shred his vocal cords trying to be a Blood Reaper or Scarbrand. I think it's actually Scarbrand that's talking.
Oh, nice.
Rage, born of destruction, of insatiable bloodlust.
Yeah, that's Scarbrand's voice actor.
We are his savagery incarnate.
Carnage! Yeah!
Epitome of brutality. Rewarded for our ferocity. Join our relentless hunt. Enact the wrath of the Blood God. Unleash your fury. Blood for the Blood God. Skulls for the Skull Throne.
Oh, nice.
So this was a really funny trailer when it came out because it actually caused a controversy at the time.
Really? What for?
A lot of people got super upset and worried because this is Scarbrand and he starts flying. And everyone's like, "What the fuck? Scarbrand can't fly! Like that's like one of his things is that he can't fly." And because he just kind of flies up the air with this trailer. So CA ended up having to put out like a PR statement saying, just to be clear, Scarbrand cannot fly. He just has an animation he can do where he just kind of like tries to and he jumps really high, but then he comes back down. But we can confirm he can't fly because people were getting so upset about them being like, that's not, he doesn't do that in the rules. This is just funny to me. It's like, man, to have a Total War audience.
Yeah. Dedicated fans.
Bunch of nerds.
Well, that's what we are.
Yep. But yeah, it's fun. It's simple. It's to the point. It's got the things CA loves doing of the drum beats timed with the skull transpiring.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with it. And yeah, I will say this was also a really big, pretty big trailer showing off the marked warriors of Khorne, because with that is something we had not actually gotten until Warhammer 3, is that we only had undivided warriors, and this was
nice.
the first of many new Warriors of Chaos we were going to see added to the game, which is super duper nice. But yeah, all right, so we got one more, and then we'll get caught up on super chats and stuff, because we're going to do Into the World of Tzeentch. So
underneath the one you're in. There it is.
yeah.
It is foreseen. Change was inevitable. Masters of manipulation.
Good old Kairos.
Orchestrators of grand complexity.
I love the blue horrors. They sound like
I've always loved the horrors.
By the architect of fate. You seek the ultimate truth.
little classic design.
We reveal the unfathomable. Manipulate fate for
So this one's very fun. It's pretty beautiful to look at. The Realm of Tzeentch is really pretty. It's very like galaxy space colors.
Yeah,
with a lot of the blues and pinks. This trailer was also really fun because it revealed that they actually had a lot of people don't know that they actually have 2 voice actors for Kairos that do like a similar effect, but it's actually 2 different people that voice one of them voices each head, which is really funny. There was also a really big meme that came from this of the Screamers of Tzeentch when they show up. This screamer right here became a meme because his face is so like he's just like
wow. I'll admit, scary, watching through that one, quite a few of them looked almost goofy. Yeah. But you know,
a lot of Tzeentch is goofy, to be frank.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting because you go so used to seeing many of the models not in motion. Many of them just being miniatures, a model sitting in front of you. And then some of them, when they move into motion, you're just like, holy shit, look at that. Others, when they go into motion, you're like, yep.
Yeah. The horrors,
it's definitely moving.
They're literally adorable.
I love that. I've always loved the gibbering horrors bouncing their way forward. They've always been described like that all the way from the first edition of Fantasy Roleplay and the 3rd edition of Warhammer. So it's nice to see that's managed to stand the test of time.
Yeah, the horrors I've always found really funny because, like, from a mini standpoint, and often when they're animated in video games, they're so like adorable and often pretty goofy. But when you read stories that involve them, they're terrifying. They're like always like bursting out new limbs and mouths and all this other stuff. But animators are like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, you're not doing that. I mean, it's one of the things that's super fun to describe and work into text is that the fact that Tzeentch is constantly in a state of flux, and the demons, the lesser demons in particular, they might have new mouths opening up and eyes blistering forth and popping, new arms just moving out where beforehand it was a head or it was a bit of a limb or something else. And yeah, of course, that's never going to happen in a computer game because that would make the assets required enormously expensive.
Yeah, your computer would explode.
50 years to make, and your computer, of course, would explode when you're attempting to render it. But nevertheless, that's why they tend to look a bit goofy rather than scary when you see them in action. Nevertheless, still cool.
Yeah, this is also where they introduced the Cultists of Tzeentch, which I think the Cultists of Tzeentch is probably my favorite of the cultists because they have different kinds of masks. Where some of them have the full moon, the crescent moon mask, and others have like a horned bird mask. But they're like really fun looking cultists.
If only they did the same for the Sangors, eh?
Well, if they had bird masks, maybe we could have got away with it. But the other really fun thing in this trailer that was super exciting was these guys. So these are the Doom Knights of Tzeentch, which were a completely new unit. As Doom Knights in tabletop were literally just like the unit champion of a unit of Chaos Knights. It was just kind of your big guy. But CA, of course, ran with the idea of, well, what if we just took like the concept of a Chaos Lord on a disc and we just made it Chaos Knights on discs and gave us just a whole unit of hoverboard knights, which is super duper fun. Of course, the ones we have now are much better looking than these because they got a heavy revamp with Shadows of Change, because a lot of people didn't like how kind of basic they were, but so
they all look a bit the same, really.
Yeah. So they got
Yeah.
some pretty heavy new assets.
I mean, they really look like the original model, though. If I take a look at it and think about the old Chaos Warrior models, they really look like them. They've got the same fur, the same skulls sitting on them, the same heavy look to their armor.
Yeah. Which was fine for like the regular Chaos Knights, but for something that's supposed to be new, it's like, yeah. Oh, right.
So is there any lore attached to them? Just because the Knights of Tzeentch in general have had a variety of bits and pieces of lore attached to them.
Yeah,
over the course of time.
It's a very brief, just little bit, but it basically just kind of goes into that they are like the Chaos Knights of Tzeentch that have like ascended to the like absolute upper echelons, to the point where they are able to track down and forcefully bind screamers, of course, into the forms of discs. So they have to track down the individual screamers they desire and break them to their will to reshape them into the discs of Tzeentch so that they can ride them.
I would have been tempted to add more to that if it'd be me.
I think it's literally one sentence.
Okay, fair enough. That's not too much.
Because it's like when you pull up like their unit profile, there's like a little blurb, and like that's all you get. that's all you get.
Nice.
But they're a fun unit. And we don't actually have these in tabletop at all, which is a shame, because it'd be nice to just, I think disc riding knights would just be perfect. We have disc riding Zongors in Age of Sigmar, but we don't have disc riding Chaos Knights. All right, so let's get caught up in super chats and stuff. And
Zongors?
It'll be time for, I know. What are Zongors, right?
Yeah. They're just normal gores, aren't they?
Who does Nurgle favor more, Festus or Tarmacon?
Yes.
I would agree with Andy's general statement.
I mean, I'm trying to rank what are effectively two tiny little mortals on one tiny little world. For a god's, let's say, perspective is almost certainly going to end in nothingness. I mean, the differences between them would be infinitesimal. However, equally, if you view it from the perspective of the Warhammer world is all-encompassing, and everything that happens there is of core importance to the Chaos Gods, then if that's the case, then which one was more responsible for bringing about the end of the world? So tick that box. Yeah,
and I think one of the things that a lot of people maybe sometimes get a little confused, or like an assumption that doesn't help, I think, when understanding the Chaos Gods, is it's really important to remember that the Dark Gods do not think in a rational way. They're like kind of all over the place and mess. And granted, I think that's mostly because the army books and the lore tend to do kind of a shit job of trying to describe what the Chaos Gods are actually like, because they just go through it very quickly. So it can give the impression that like they have favorites at a specific time for reasons that we could list out to you, but that's likely not at all how they work. Like there are, like, if somebody fails, there are moments where someone can fall down. Like there are some interesting descriptions in the 7th edition Demons of Chaos book about how like Kugoth rises and falls in Nurgle's favor due to various incidents. But like, if anything, Nurgle seems to almost be a little bit one of the simplest of the four, so to speak. But even his system is complex because of the way that he kind of has this fatherly forgiveness baked into how he does his ranking systems. And like, if you try and have Slaanesh or Tzeentch on the table, it's a mess. Like trying to figure out who is Slaanesh or Tzeentch's favorite, I think, is completely pointless. Of like,
particular,
I mean, like trying to figure out like, oh, is it Azazel or Nakari or Sigvald is Slaanesh's favorite? It's like, pick a day and a time.
Yeah, right? Totally. Plus, I think there's another way of viewing it as well. If you consider that they are in the realm of chaos, where things are not normal anyway, and time itself is kind of not just different, it just doesn't exist in the same way.
Yeah.
So that means you're also looking at their favorites across time, if you view they even have them. But if we flip this on its head a little bit and view each one of the greater demons as, say, for example, a manifestation of that God will in one particular way, then you can suddenly go, well, each one of these greater demons may have their own favorites, their own pawns, their own ones that they're interested in, but they are also nothing more than an extension of their Chaos God anyway. Even if that means they're rebelling against their Chaos God, that does not mean that the Chaos God themselves is not manifesting through that, because Chaos Gods are kind of chaotic at their very heart. So to cut a long story short here, you could say they've got as many favorites as they have greater demons, as they have lesser demons. They are not consistent in such ways.
Yeah, nor should they be.
Yeah, nor should they be.
Daniel Bryan. Hi, Andy.
Hey, Daniel.
I've been watching out for almost a year now. Oh, well, thank you. Y'all
Oh,
streams
wow.
are the highlight of my week. Love you guys so much. Hey, Andy, could you tell some of your experience when you worked with Critical Role?
Well, I won't go into it in any great depth because Critical Role is obviously quite separate from what we're doing here this evening as we trailer our way through all the coolest options that Total War offers. But I will say that Critical Role was one of the many great jobs that I did over the course of time. I was working largely on the maps. I very first came in long before it became as big as it is today. And I was helping Matt put together the very first maps of what would eventually become his big campaign world and eventually an Amazon TV show. And later on, I came back again for their second editions with the books with a company called Darrington Press, which is actually just Critical Role. I worked on redoing all those maps, updating them and adding some new ones onto it all. And it was and always will be one of my best memories because everybody involved was so super hyped about it. We're so super enthusiastic and we're at heart almost all fans. So every single last person who was working on it was also super excited just to see it finished so that they could get their hands on the books or hands on the cool new stuff that was coming. So of all the jobs I've worked on, it was almost certainly one of the most overall enjoyable.
If only we could get a Warhammer project like that. Maybe one day. Zargard could snap an Imperial soldier like a twig. Yeah, probably. But that being said, there are some big boys in the Empire.
Yeah, there is. You tend to find that whenever you're dealing with a game like Total War, they dial all of the things that have been dialed up to 11 to 12. So you tend to find that everything that you think is hard suddenly becomes harder, and then something else comes along and throws that one in the air like it's made of paper. So I wouldn't necessarily trust all of the animations to be a good guide for what they would be like if they were made in, so, for example, the battle game, or if they were made in the roleplay game.
Yeah.
But they do make for super cool animations to watch.
Yeah, if I was watching LAWhammer and there was they met an NPC who could like impale and pick up a Chaos Warrior, I would have several questions. Clearly, that's Ulrich in disguise.
Yeah, quite.
Baron, you guys talked about the voice actors being shared in the first trailer reaction video. Richard Ruddings, by the way, voices Gelt, Thorgrim, Vlad von Karstein, Azhag, and Wurzag.
Oh, nice mixture there from Richard.
The early games, especially Warhammer 1, shared. They had a lot of shared voice actors.
Just to pull up a comment while I'm here. Yes, I did work in Exandria's design. Just to conclude on that one, when it was given to me first off, the entirety of Tal'Dorei, for example, only about a third of it had been done, and I had to go and make all the rest of it. So yeah, that was a fun job.
Hitman, thank you for the sub, by the way. Would it be lore breaking if a Myrmidia priestess to let a Bretonnian think Myrmidia is simply a prior Fey enchantress if it suited their strategic goal, i.e. Machiavellian?
Okay, so I'll answer this one with absolute clarity. No, that would not be lore breaking. A Myrmidian will do what is necessary to win. And that means sometimes deploying unexpected strategies. The whole point of the Bellona Myrmidia, which is one of her holy books, basically meaning the war goddess Myrmidia, was that she took her, when she was mortal, wandering around conquering Tilia and Estalia, she took her army, which was often massively outnumbered, and plucked victory from defeat again and again by deploying unconventional tactics and doing what other people would be relatively convinced were unacceptable, but not in a way that you would view today. In that, one of the core tenets of Myrmidian worship is that you have actual articles of war, the right way of concluding warfare, something that the Empire just doesn't recognize or do. So when, say, for example, some Estalians might be wandering around counting the dead, taking prisoners and looking after them properly, the Empire General's not doing that. He's busy shooting all the people that he's quite convinced are almost certainly spies, when they are in fact just initiates of Myrmidia, for example, going around trying to administer to those who are dead and dying. So the answer there would be yes, but be aware Myrmidia is at heart also deeply honorable. So figure out how that works best for the game that you're presenting.
Yep. Kobo, I recognize the voice of the guy who does Urson in that trailer. His name is Olafur Dari. I met him in a hallway once. Oh, very cool.
Alafadari.
Yeah.
I've
Nice.
never met him, nor in a hallway.
Yeah. You guys threw me in light.
Lovely. Let me just raise my glass there.
Nice work.
Thank you very much.
Andy, Mark of Chaos, Let's Play win.
Oh, holy heck. I'd have to figure out how I'd even get that to run. I'm sure it probably could if you did it through good old games.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you do it through GOG, it runs fine.
Yeah, I'll probably be fine over there. I don't know if I will do that one again. I haven't played that game for ages, and I'd be afraid if I went back to it, I would just cry because it's so old now.
Yeah,
but there's a part of me that really enjoyed that game, particularly given that it was one of the first games that I actually played end to end, side to side, and did every single last potential option to ensure that I saw every single last scene that it offered and saw every single last corner of the map, because I was creating stuff for Warhammer at the time, and I wanted to make sure that every single last piece of lore that had been hidden in there could then be extracted and put into my work. So I have a lot of exceedingly fond memories and frustrated memories concerning that game, and it would be very odd to go back to it, but I might.
Still probably has one of my favorite portrayals of a orc shaman in a game, because he's that perfect mix of surprisingly intelligent while being goofy as fuck. God, I love that shaman. The Singemeister. It'd been nice for Krockgar to have been into the Immortal Empires trailer with Katerin and Carl to complete the set of named order characters with cool pets. Well, to be fair, they were going for a really lore-heavy, specific, like the Conclave of Light and all that stuff. And a Lizardman character appearing in that probably would have been a little much for the story they wanted to tell, even though I would have personally loved it. But at least we got Oxiodal joining the Wild Hunt, which is something that theoretically could genuinely happen, and I fucking love the concept of Lizardman getting caught up in the Wild Hunt. God, that would be fucking cool. But that would definitely be like something fucky's going on scenario, like something really bad is happening for there to be Lizardmen somewhere in the vicinity of the Wild Hunt. But let's see. Two Trains is a demon prince of higher ranking or social standing than a greater demon, or does it go case by case?
It doesn't just go case by case; it goes god by god as well. Loosely speaking, answering that is particularly difficult because the sources themselves have contradicted in more than one place. So I think that gives us the answer, and that is that it's case by case. Some demon princes are elevated high, very high. Others are barely demons in and of themselves. Some of them are almost brought to the very throne of the god at hand. Others are pretty much never seen by that god and never will be. So the answer is that it is almost certainly leveled, varied, complicated, and uncertain.
Yep. Beers look great today, by the way. Oh,
good.
Thank you.
Very much.
Gar, glad to see you all again. What is the difference between demon princes and greater demons?
Hey, Gar, I think we may have just tackled that to a degree.
I will say that the ultimate difference to keep in mind is that demons and greater demons are shards or kind of like pieces of those gods that have sort of been broken off and given a sentience of their own to varying degrees. Greater demons being notably larger shards that virtually always have their own sentience and are pursuing their own agendas. Demon princes are mortals, not necessarily humans, though 99.9 to the infinitesimal degree of the cases we've seen are humans. But they are mortal. They are mortal individuals who have essentially sold their souls and have become one, in a sense, with that god. So that god makes a pact with them, and they are elevated to immortality and demon princehood, and they kind of become infused with that god. However, not all demon princes are with the four major powers. There are demon princes that are outside of that.
In fact, loads of them.
Yeah, a lot of them.
the lore for this was first established back in the Realms of Chaos books for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 1 and Warhammer Fantasy Battle 3 in terms of the editions. And back then, all species could become demon princes. And demon princes were effectively those who had ascended to sit beside their god in the realm of chaos. So all demon princes were once mortal. And as Sotek very accurately puts it, all the demons are effectively, they're not even slaves to the darkness. They are the darkness itself, if you wish to go for the old adages. They are the damned souls that work for the chaos gods. Some of them are nothing more than an extension of that god, but it's also worth noting that a whole bunch, particularly of the lesser demons, were also once mortal souls, if not necessarily mortals, and they have been effectively twisted and turned into nothing more than a shard of the god at hand. It is almost the exact opposite of ascension, though. So if, say, for example, a plague bearer was to be created by catching Nurgle's rot, and slowly but surely your body eats itself from within, a big horn pops out, your eyes merge together into one pus-filled maggoty hellhole in the middle of your head, and you effectively bloat out and become one of the good old Nurgle demons. You have not ascended. You've done the opposite. Your soul is completely lost forever. You have nothing more than an eternity of hell ahead of you.
Yeah, I think the big thing about demon princes is they are individuals who were so important and or powerful and or had enough of a bargaining chip that they were able to come to the table and make a deal.
Interestingly, that actually goes quite against what they originally were, which is actually fascinating. Originally, demon princes were created through one process only: sheer goddamn luck. Basically, the only way you could become a demon prince was to roll the demon prince blessing. So you got yourself all manners of different mutations, and if you rolled demon prince, you were elevated. And sometimes it made no sense at all, because what was elevated was little better than a worm. And then suddenly it sprouts wings, becomes super uber, and demon princes its way off into the realm of chaos. So that was something that to a degree was lost over the course of time, because they eventually went with, no, every one of our demon princes is going to have an uber story, because we don't want any of them to look like total wusses who for reasons unknown popped up. But every once in a while you'll find that some of the stories have got a little bit more depth, a little bit more.
Well, you know, I was going to say, I think it is worth holding on to that idea, though, that like ultimately, like, gods are insane and work on methods we don't understand. So like the idea that one of the gods would elevate something that we would be like, that's pathetic and puny. Who knows why they're elevating them, though?
Yeah, agreed completely.
Yeah.
So that's going to occur. So for all, it's easy to just look at the prime demon princes that we're aware of, and to look at, say, for example, a demon prince as you'd drop it into the Warhammer game. If you take a look at the broader lore, it is a far more random and uncertain thing, and there are literally hundreds of thousands of mortals, more than that, millions of mortals, all chasing down eternity as a demon. The vast majority of them, if they continue down that path, will become nothing more than lesser demons, spawn, or just simply dead.
Yeah. Then that is almost always going to be the big motivator you'll see for like Black Library chaos characters, is trying to become demon princes. And
just to bring up Mornington's comment there, the original Path to Glory, I remember it well, meant you needed at least 6 rewards, less than 6 mutations, a roll 9 of God results, a further result. Remember far too well. Yeah, the original Path of Glory rules were based upon the rules that are presented in the original Realms of Chaos books.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was super fun.
Schwarz, thank you very much for the time. Tarmacon must rise. He has risen. Please do a Tarmacon lore video soon. One day, yes. Though I do have a sponsorship thing coming up with CA about Thrones of Decay, so there will be some good Tarmacon goodies in there. So look forward to that. Lauren Zimnes, hey, Loremasters. Andy, I always wondered about the races and their real world counterparts from the Lizardmen and the Mesoamerican counterparts. Was there ever an idea or inclination that you're aware of to make any kind of race or species around African cultures?
Yeah, this is something that came up again and again and again and again behind the scenes. Loosely speaking, it always falls back on the following. Games Workshop did do it once a very long time ago, and it was terrible, racist, and bad. We're talking Warhammer 3rd edition, so a very long time ago. And ever since then, there has been a certain amount of caginess to deal with, for example, anything that comes out of not just Africa, but also Araby, where they would only touch that at the periphery without ever actually doing it properly. And there is constant, shall we do it this times, kicking around in the background. And whenever someone like a license comes along, say, for example, Total War or something like Fantasy Roleplay, they tend to fall into either one or two results. One, like Cathay, yes, it's time to do this. Let's do it and do it right, but it'll be led by Games Workshop. Or alternatively, two, Games Workshop's going to do this, not you, so don't even think about it. So at best, you tend to find that it's something that the licenses will hold at a distance, and Games Workshop themselves will one day maybe do it if they ever have the, shall we say, need to do so. But they have so many existing factions that adding new ones without updating the old ones is going to be a slow process.
Yeah, that's true. Aaron Shriver, I sacrificed my Skaven slaves to my nuke. Lord Andy Ratlaw, they're Scryer slaves. Well, they did their job then. Sounds to me. The Skaven slaves held them in place, held the enemy in place with the nuke. Slaves well used.
Totally.
Damn Skaven. Josh, thank you so much. Who would win, Gotrek Felix or Malice Darkblade? Because I'm playing a Malachi campaign right now, and Malice whooped up on both Gotrek and Felix, and that doesn't seem right to me. I mean, he does have a greater demon with him.
Yeah, I'm going to do something that is relatively controversial. And we sort of hinted at in the Gotrek and Felix stream, and that is they're not that good. Okay, now that may sound ridiculous given everything that they have slain and everything they've encountered, but they have enormous plot armor. If you actually just look at them stat on stat and ability on ability, most elves would kick their ass, high ranking elves, that is. But that's not how it is. He's a relatively young dwarf in the greater scheme of dwarfs. But he has been taking on the powers of God for some time, good old Grimnir. But nevertheless, he gets his ass handed to him again and again. He just somehow survives. And he tends to take out the big things along the way. So controversially, I'm going to say that under normal circumstances, if there wasn't a writer there saving the day...
I was going to say, unless there is a Slayer at the end of the title.
Yeah. You're probably going to find that Gotrek would probably be beaten down and not killed. And it would then turn into a grudge where he would try and chase him down for one reason or another. Damned Elgi. But loosely speaking, I don't think that's wrong. I think that's fine. And I equally think Gotrek handing him his ass under the correct circumstances is also fine. After all, there's a huge demon involved here.
Yep. Thank you, Kitsune Adventure for the bits. In the Chaos Chaotica of Nurgle, there's a Zinch demon prince that got turned to stone in his garden since it was a Nurgle demon prince once. Yeah, there's the Liber Chaotica has a lot of really cool concepts that unfortunately don't get really touched on ever again. They're just sort of left there. But the Liber Chaotica, like if you're ever looking for a book that is a long read, but is super fun from like pretty much end to end, that I could not recommend a better book.
Yeah, indeed. I think there might even be an excuse to maybe do a stream about one or two of them along the way because there's so much cool content in there.
That is true.
You know,
MVS,
Marianne van Stauffer, who wrote those books, he established, created, and solidified so much lore that's still used to this day. The very concept of the mortal realms, as it would then become to be known inside Age of Sigmar, comes from those books. In fact, the concept of a whole host of demons and stories, the idea of how the colleges of magic work, how various possession works, a lot of that was established in those books and then copy-pasted over into others. They are enormously influential.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the fact that he had the brilliant idea to have a lot of the fact that the entirety of the books are written in universe is very, very smart. And there's two authors essentially, because there's the regular author, but there's also a quote unquote chaos cultist who writes notes in the margins, and also uses certain ciphers. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty, he actually uses like code ciphers to write additional notes. So you actually have to get out cipher keywords because you'll just see like a random list of letters or numbers. Like it'll be like 77, 82, 5, 6, 1712, and you have to get a cipher out to figure out what the hell he's talking about, which is really fun. Like, it just adds so much thematic goodies to the book, and the artwork is amazing.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah,
really good book.
My biggest bitching with the book is that I feel like way too much of the book is written using like actual cursive writing, and I fucking hate that instead of just type, because it can make it really hard to read sometimes, especially when there's like red ink on top of it from the secondary author. Some parts of it are genuinely hard to read.
Yeah, some parts of it are almost a nightmare to read, which I found at the time deeply frustrating, and to a degree still do. If you want to decipher a book, it should be because it's got some clever thought behind it, not because the font is impossible to read.
Yeah, it's like I would have loved like maybe like a small version of that image in like the corner, and then with the actual text typed out in the center. But anyway, Spooky, finally get to catch one live. Oh,
hey, Spooky!
Yeah, glad you could make it. Thank you all for helping me fall in love with the setting. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And I hope that you continue to love it, because we know we certainly do.
Can Slans ascend to something higher? Like something like a Super Saiyan Slan? You joke, but like, what is Lord Croak? If not,
well, he's more like a first generation.
I know. He's like,
Saiyan.
But true, he's weaker if anything. But theoretically,
broadly, no.
Yeah,
they are. They get older and older and older. They don't so much ascend into something new. They just get more powerful as they age.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is they're just getting stronger as time passes. Yeah. So, Kobo, this is inspired by that one "who would win" question. I think Malice would lose barely, but would escape with his life, only somehow end up in a more ridiculous situation than a fight with Gotrek and Felix. Well, if you've read the Malice Darkblade series and you've read Gotrek and Felix, you would know that all parties would probably leave alive, but you're probably right. Malice would probably end up in a really fucking bizarre situation
because
immediately after or during the fight, because some of his books, like, he has like a whole amnesia saga. He gets into a bunch of really silly shenanigans. So no, I do think there's something there. But I do think that Zarkand would be a really fun book. Malice would have actually made for a really entertaining Gotrek and Felix villain. I think they could have done well. Because like they did a really good job with Krell and Kemmler. But with Malice, it gets fun of the idea that you could run with the concept that Zarkand is too much for Gotrek and Felix, but Malice is fighting against Zarkand the entire time because he's Malice, and he's a fucking he's just anything that Zarkand wants to do, he does it.
Well, exactly. I'm quite right too.
Yeah.
Nothing but contempt for those damn demons.
Yep. Airstriver, look here. Look here, Sotek Spawn. I will show you what a nuke will do to your little jungle in about 100 turns. Love your videos, lads. Yeah, have fun living in your irradiated hellscape just so you can win a fight.
On that, I've been playing Fallout recently purely because of the TV show. So irradiated landscapes are lots of fun.
Yep. So let's get started. Get back into it. So
yeah,
next up, we are going to do probably the most important trailer that was released, in my opinion, for the game, which is the Grand Cathay trailer, the Dawn of Grand Cathay, which we'll watch it through, and then we're going to kind of go back through it in little parts, because this one is lore heavy. So yeah, let's do this shit.
Let's go. Yeah.
From the stars came the will to shape fate, hurling this world toward ruin.
Beautiful.
Oh, hell yes.
This burden is mine to bear. To offer guidance where it is most needed. To demand sacrifice.
Ouch.
For I am ruler of the northern provinces. Sentinel of the
Oh, yeah.
Bastion.
Awesome.
Bang!
Supreme Matriarch of Nangao.
Whoa!
I still remember watching.
Master
Guardian Dragon! Guardian Dragon! Guardian Dragon!
Daughter of the Dragon Emperor.
Honest to God, I think the best trailer they ever made.
Oh, freaking love that one. That trailer was single-handedly responsible for us completely changing how we were going to build our Nippon inside our game of our LAWhammer game. Because when we were first building that, we had a little chat behind the scenes, and we're like, we're going to have a Nipponese character, which means that we need to figure out what Nippon is like. And I immediately said to Sage, who's playing the Nipponese character, before you think about anything, go watch this fucking trailer because it's immense. And the reason I want you to watch this trailer is because Nippon has held off against Cathay and invaded more than once and won sometimes. So I would like you to put that in your head and watch this trailer for what they can do.
This shit.
This shit is stuff that they deal with. So get that in your head before we do our world building, because it's just so freaking awesome. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there are a lot of really cool things to pick apart with this trailer. So strap in, because we're going to be on this one for a minute. So first of all, this opening moment, this scene is beautiful with like the realm of Zinch tearing open over the Great Bastion and like the Chaos Waste in the realm of Chaos. And you just see like the city swarming with demons, or the Great Bastion. But it's like the Bastion's fucking gigantic. It's had some ridiculous descriptions in the lore, but actually seeing it created, and you're like, oh damn, that's a big fucking wall. But her opening line,
From the stars came the will to shape fate, hurling this world toward ruin.
From the Cathayan dragons, that is such a goddamn good line.
It is.
From the stars came the will to shape fate and hurl this world towards ruin. God damn. That is such a perfect way to just immediately show the dragons being like, the old ones ain't shit. Fuck the old ones. This is
totally
their fault.
I love the line. I remember when I first heard it, I immediately stopped and went, I think that's talking about, is it? And I immediately rewound it, listened to it again. I went, holy hells, yes. Because they were grounding Cathay very deeply into Warhammer and the very origins of Warhammer. The vast majority of the Warhammer factions aren't touching that age. The only thing really that has it with any degree is the Lizardmen plus arguably the elves. Past that, it pretty much isn't there. You could say Chaos does, but holy heck, that doesn't really count. So to actually have a faction not just grounded in it, but completely recognizing that the end of the world was effectively put in place by the old ones. Gotta love it. And they've been fighting against it right from the beginning.
Yeah, well, and it ties in so well, probably not intentionally, though maybe, of that the dragons being like with the old world stating this idea that yes, the old ones planned for the end times. Like that was Maybe
Yep.
not the version we got, but they were planning for the world to end, and the dragons who live on this world going, no,
Mhm.
no, we live here. No, sir.
Yeah, totally.
And also the introducing just smack in the front moments for lore people, the fact that you're able to almost immediately realize we are dealing with entities who saw the old ones, like were around at the same time and like remember it and like talk about it.
Are not happy.
Yeah, versus like, because one of the things that's so fascinating about that is traditionally the old ones are always treated as the purely mysterious enigmatic entities that nobody really knows. Nobody had any idea what they look like. Nobody had idea what they talk like, because it's like, oh, even among the Slawn, the first generation Slawn interact with
All
the
dead.
old ones, but that's it, and they're all dead.
And
And
they're all dead.
Lord Croak's not much of a talker.
Yeah, well, he croaked.
Yeah. And
Oh
but
dear.
then in come the Cathayan dragons who have met them, but they hate them. But they're not chaos, which is such an interesting dynamic.
It is. It's good.
And then
I freaking love that.
Cathay, which is just beautiful. Like it literally just takes the imagery, like the most beautiful images you've ever seen. Like there are so many games that have come out of China in like the last decade, especially fantasy games, where they lean so heavily into so many of these concepts of like the really tall towers and the China fucking loves their floating rocks among the mist. They love that so much. And I gotta say, it's a nice aesthetic. It's beautiful. The floating islands are really pretty, which also suggests just how much magic is in this land. That there are lands that just float idly. That's wild. That is legitimately wild. But I love that you can see they've built like towers along them. And they have like little what do you call these? Like ferries that
Like
allow people
cable cars.
Yeah, that allow you to get from place to place. Fucking cool concept.
Yeah,
Love
it's
it.
lovely.
The LAWhammer riders, where they've got these like, it's like, oh no, they've got Pegasus riders, but they're dragon horse Pegasus riders. And I also love they do a really good job of immediately getting you into some themes without having to state anything. Like just looking at this image, I'm able to go, oh, they have men and women in their military.
Yeah.
Oh, they've
Good.
got they like walk in sync, and they're really big on having like a lot of structure and order. And how they maneuver, like they have a very ordered march compared to the more kind of laissez-faire march you might see with more like in an Empire trailer that would be showing something similar. The fact that the Terracotta Sentinels are just around, and you can tell from this image where it's like, oh, you can see it's a very rural environment for this particular town. They've got oxen pulling things around, a lot of peasants walking around, everyone's working, but they've got these guardian statues just hanging out. And it's like, oh yeah, that looks inert. But then the end of the trailer reveals, no, it's not. It like that thing could come awake and could defend this town if necessary, or put down a rebellion if necessary. Which has like it's a guardian, but it's also a watcher. There's a little spookiness there, which is great. Like that's awesome. The forging scene is really fun. Just this image is also a really good one, because for me, this is really exciting because you see the Celestial Dragon Guard, who we know are dragon-blooded. So these are like, now we know that. But so like, these are descendants of dragons. Once again, though, these are the ultimate elite melee soldiers, and there's men and women intermixed in their ranks, which is really cool. Didn't have to do that. Games Workshop normally doesn't do that, but it's cool to do that.
True fact.
This scene is super duper fun, where we get to see like the sky lanterns and stuff flying around. And these two, who I don't know if they intended it. I get such sapphic vibes from these two. It's
fair.
not even funny. But here we have the driver of the I don't know what you'd call her, but the lady that controls the pilot, sure, of the sky lantern or the sky junk, and this is an alchemist, which the alchemists, funny enough, are something that is technically outlawed, but is so useful that most of the dragons are willing to turn the other eye, much to the Jade Dragon's annoyance. you have the whole scene, and Miao Ying's speech here is so good because she talks about how much it's like her burden, her struggle, and all that. But while she's saying that, she's also talking about like sacrificing people like pawns and how like it's expected, it's demanded. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, she has to work hard, but she's literally talking about how it's an inconvenience for her to throw these people's lives away to hold back the churning of chaos, which is a little fucked up if you think about it for a moment. But this is Miao Ying. This is the cold and aloof dragon, the win at all costs dragon, which is great once again. And then the fight scene's amazing. This poor girl gets killed by Kairos. Bummer.
Yep. Bummer.
Also love they do a good job of Kairos knowing where the missiles are, so he's swooping around because he knows he's seen it already. Then she dies, and the woman who I 100% believe is her lover is like,
damn straight.
Why did we send the sky junks
against freaking greater demons?
This is a terrible idea.
Very bad planning.
Yeah. Of course, then we get the Terracotta Sentinels activating, which is fucking amazing because they're activated by magic. But I love that you can almost see like it looks like steam. I don't think it technically is. I think it's just the magic like putting out steam as it's activating. But the fact that there's magic that is triggered under certain events to bring these to life, fucking amazing concept. You can see all their guns and stuff. And then this girl, I will say, I also love how they showcase that these constructs are so different. Of that, these are not the Tomb King constructs, or that are slow, ponderous, heavy motherfuckers. And like they're incredibly durable and they're thick, but they're so heavy and slow. These things are graceful and elegant and beautiful, which to me suggests that they're probably hollow, or at least not like the magic that animates them favors skill and speed over pure, like I can take a cannon shot to the face without worry, which is fascinating. I think does such a good job of showing the difference between those two cultures.
Yep.
And their ways of engineering, because it would have been really easy, I think, for them to just use animations that would have been like, oh yeah, constructs. They're like the Tomb King constructs.
In fact, it wouldn't just have been easy. It probably would have been the default, because it's one of the ways of making things look big is you slow them down. And doing the opposite really significantly changed everything about them. Love it.
Yeah, fucking Gundams. And then this lady, I love this because so what a lot of people don't maybe necessarily know, she is wielding Shaman, this alchemist. So she's using metal magic to do what she's doing. But this is a Cathayan expression of using metal. And I love that it's almost like ribbons of ink that she's like, from like calligraphy that she's wielding as a weapon, but it's like this black metal, like iron or something.
I'm going to pull up that comment because it's exactly what it made me think when I very first saw it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like metal bending. Holy crap, yes. It's like, bam! And the metal just spirals out. And again, like ink. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, but it's such a cool way to envision, like, yeah, sure, the Empire has metal wizards and Cathay has metal wizards, but the way they would be using it would be completely fucking different.
Completely.
Yeah. Even for the video game, obviously they use the same lore of magic and you're casting the same spells for the sake of ease and understanding. But like if you were playing in like a roleplay game, if you were using like a metal wizard from Cathay, your metal wizard from Cathay and your Empire trained collegiate metal wizard would use completely different spells.
Indeed. In my game, they have different talents.
Yeah, like it would be fascinating to see just how crazy different they'd be. And then, of course, this trailer also does a beautiful job showing off how powerful Kairos is. Dude literally comes down and just one-shots everything. Like, he casts one spell and just kills fucking everybody.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she gets pissed and goes dragon mode. And the one thing I really
love... It's not so much she gets pissed. It's just, now's time for me to deploy. He's a bit too cool to be pissed.
I think it's the irritation of that she does have to get involved. I think for her, that in alone in of itself is irritating. But one of the things, the last little tidbit for this trailer that I love so much is that during her transformation, when she comes down, you could see the animators did I love whoever directed this in the animators. You could tell which of Kairos's head can see the future because the future head reacts to her coming down. And it's quite literally a, oh, fuck. And you could see the past head look at him like, what? Like, what? What's the problem? What's happening? Which I just love so much.
I particularly love that little bit there because it broke the speed of sound. And you got the...
Of the Dragon Emperor!
Fucking great. Like, it is not... I using the idea of Kairos' future head being able to react to something, showing you that that is a huge threat for his future to go, oh no. Also, the way she flies, fucking beautiful, where you could see the way she's using lightning to sustain herself. And also, it's such a fascinating expression of Gairan as well, where like when a lot of people saw her, they're like, oh, she must wield like Azir or something. It's like, no, she's the storm winds, but like in more of a nature sense, not in a celestial sense, which is a really interesting concept. But that goes along with what we were talking about with the Alchemist, where the Alchemist wields metal very, very differently than we would expect from an Empire metal wizard, but she wields Gairan in a very, very different way than we would ever expect from a Jade wizard, which is great. That's a cool concept. I love it.
Got a long story short, freaking cool. Just awesome.
Yep. And I noticed there's actually one trailer missing from this, which is the Enter the World of Cathay. So I'm going to pull up that one because it's really, really cool. But it's not on this list. So we'll watch this one next. So this one, I actually was really happy with this one because most of the Enter the Worlds with, for the Kislev one, I wasn't as thrilled because Kislev, kind of the reveal trailer for Kislev was the Trial by Fire, which was almost more about Khorne than it was about Kislev. And then, oh, I just realized it's not share this tab instead. Haha, thank you. This one was unique though, because then when they did the Enter the World of Kislev, then they were like, oh, okay, now Kataryn's doing it. Whereas for this, they had it where the Cathay trailer has Miao Ying, and then this trailer is Zhao Ming talking.
Nothing endures without harmony. And harmony only endures through us. We are unmoving like the mountain. We will not be drowned by the raging river. Behold the wonders of the Celestial Dragon Empire. The might of our warriors. The secrets of our alchemists. The sorcery of the
Here's
dragon
Heaven's wizard.
Vanquish chaos with the sheer power of the dragon.
Of the dragons!
Majesty of Grand Cathay.
So for anyone, by the way, whoever wonders why they picked Zhao Ming and Miao Ying as the starting dragons, this is why. Because one of them's the black dragon, one of them's the white dragon. That's quite literally the reason why they picked these two instead of one of the other siblings. Is because that's how you get that kind of yin and yang dichotomy, which matches in so well with their things. But this is super fun. Once again, the Azir wizard is super, the Astromancer. But he just, uses winds to like throw people into tornadoes and hit them with a lightning bolt. Hilarious. Love it. But yeah, good. Love it.
Australia's go. That was pants in comparison to the other one, but nevertheless really enjoyed it, particularly for that lovely little image of the two dragons going swirl into the yin yang, which is just obviously too cool. But beyond that, meh.
Well,
first trailers, that's what happens when you get such a good trailer just before you watch another one. You're like, yeah, but it's not as good as the other one, is it?
Yeah, I do love the Yin wizard. I love the Yin spell. Mirror missile or missile mirror is one of my favorite spells and concept of that. It's designed that they use Yin magic, which is this magic of darkness and shadow, to literally redirect missiles back at where they come from, which is such a terrifying fucking spell where it even works against like magic and stuff. Like, just imagine if Cathayan Empire fight on a battlefield, a Bright Wizard's like, fireball! And the End Wizard's like, yeah, cute.
Fireball!
Just throws it right back at him. It's like, oh shit! Great. All right, so this is one. This one was really interesting. So this was the reveal trailer for Nurgle and Slaanesh, but they do it through the perspective of Daji Johan, or the advisor.
Oh, this is the trailer I think it is. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, so this is a covenant with chaos, which is very story heavy.
Yes, this is my trailer. Rather like this one.
Yeah. All right, here we go. We have the little intro. Good old Kugoth. So for those that don't know, this is Nakari speaking to him right now.
Right.
He carries the doom.
Ooh.
The pact with the architect.
I love the
Fate is
cultist voice.
fickle.
Just laughing at him.
Never know. He wants more. We all wanted more.
This whole setup is a perfect understanding of Slaanesh, if you've ever wondered, by the way. Like, it's such a good showcase. And this is when he realizes that it's no longer Nakari talking to him. It's somebody else. And interrupt. Oh shit!
Where's me book? He's waddling.
I love how elegant the Slaanesh units move. Good old Kugoth.
Hell yeah.
Not too long. Not have to
Oh.
There he is. It is.
I have the knowledge you crave, but all pleasure has a price.
Oh, good, my lord.
Yeah,
brilliant.
He has such the perfect face for a guy who just had to witness Nakari the Archtempter. Just, oh, I've made so many bad decisions in my life leading up to this moment.
I adore that trailer. There's only a single thing I would change, and that's the word knowledge at the end. I would have preferred if they'd said secret.
Yeah.
I have the secrets you crave. It is, after all, a keeper of secrets, the greater manifestation of Slaanesh. But nevertheless, I freaking love that one.
Yeah, and I love that. I think for a lot of people, the portrayal of if you were craving knowledge, craving to know things, a lot of people would not necessarily think Slaanesh would be who you would go to. But that's what keepers of secrets are.
It totally is.
They like knowledge is absolutely fucking up at the top of things they can offer. You know, a lot of people think that be in the domain of Tzeentch, but it's like not
Quite the
necessarily.
opposite, in fact, because Tzeentch is all about change. Tzeentch is, perhaps you would argue, lore, but lore by its very nature is changeable when you're dealing with the realm of Tzeentch. Where Slaanesh, it is quite literally the perfection of all things, and that includes knowledge. The great keeper of secrets, after all, is are the greater demons that literally hear and know everything. So, yeah, totally agreed. Loved it.
And this trailer has a lot of really just amazing things, like the fact that we got the design they ended up going with Nakari, perfect. Like
straight out of the book.
I was really worried that they were just like I love the AOS designs and they use the AOS designs for the regular demons, which is great. But the fact that they just took Nakari's design from that really, really famous piece of him fighting an Aryan and just updated it is just brilliant.
And I also, just for the record, adore the Age of Sigmar Slaanesh demons. Just really, really love them. But I'm equally delighted to see Curry being just like that. Just brilliant.
Yeah. And this trailer, there's so many badass things that, like, I love that they don't just kind of tell you. They allow you to just sort of think about it and muse over it, which is the way lore should be. Of that, like, clearly, he's here to form a covenant. That he was sent here by the architect, which is kind of what you hear the cultist voice saying, of that he was sent here by the architect of fate. But then one of them mentions that he's fickle, and they start laughing. And it's because I think the Slaanesh demons know that if he completes this covenant, he's fucked. Yep. And that's what they're warning him. They're literally warning him, and he's just not listening. And it's Nurgle that ends up breaking him out of it by showing him what's really at play, allowing him to see who he's really treating with, which is so fucking good. Like, I love that it's Tzeentch is clearly trying to make a bargain with Slaanesh, and then Nurgle, to play the great game, has shown up and is fighting to try and mess with him enough to get him not to do the deal. And Kugoth wins. Like, Kugoth convinces him not to form the pact with Nakari, which is awesome. It's just really good storytelling. I just love it a lot. Also,
good trailer.
One of the things that a lot of people loved a lot, and actually caused a lot of argument initially, because I remember talking about a lot, was that Total War ended up using elves or elf designs for the cultist of Slaanesh. So these are the cultists, where they're these bald women that are very obviously elven. And I remember it caused such a debate because everyone was like, "Oh, but there's no chaos servants of Slaanesh and a lot of the more a lot of the more modern stuff, yada yada." And there was like a lot of back and forthing about it. And to further muddy the waters, which I will give them big applause on, because man, it was throwing everyone for a loop when they released the story about Kostaltin, where Kostaltin like reveals what Mother Ostankia, like he kind of talks about Mother Ostankia a little bit, and we see Kostaltin kind of going on his rampage through the city of Kislev. The opening scene is there is a pleasure cult in a basement in a tavern or whatever in Kislev, and there are these women described as elves, and Kostaltin like literally shows up like a SWAT team and kicks the door down, comes down, and he's like, he's there to murder everybody. And the elven women immediately like cast off their glamours, and they're actually demonettes. And like this big fight breaks out, and Kostaltin, of course, just curb stomps everything. And
because of course.
Yeah, and it leads to this thing of like, oh, okay, well, are all the cultists just like demonettes in disguise, or are they actual elves? And I remember it was a whole thing for months. Of course, with the end up thing being that no, they are actually elves. Like they are actually fallen elves to Slaanesh, which then tied into their update to Marathi, where they brought back the whole cult of pleasure concept, which was super duper fun. Yeah, Chaos Elves. They're not common, but they exist.
Super chat time.
Yes, you caught up on those. So we got Watch What You Asked For. I'm a legendary lord in Koresh. I'm sure you are, Krimgelto. I'm sure you are. Cole Patterson. Is there some talk of Cathay being nice for Warhammer? Oh, there is some talk of Cathay being nice for Warhammer. But the more we've learned, the more I think I might want to be a Bretonnian peasant over a Cathayan peasant. That's an interesting opinion.
Okay, so I actually don't think that's a bad opinion, because the dragons do not treat their people particularly well. What they do is they order them, and keep them ordered. And if you're a cog in a very large machine, sometimes you are not very important. Where at least with the Bretonnians, if you run by them, if you accept that the lady is a goddess for all of Bretonnia, and that the nobles who express her code of honor and chivalry are doing their job right, then they will be looking after their peasantry far more closely and far more humanely than you could argue would be the case for the dragons.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that is if you accept those, because you've got to realize that humanity is flawed to its core, except for arguably Grail Knights, because they can't be flawed, right? Because they're Grail Knights and they've stopped from there. Oh, it gets complicated.
Yeah, no, they're perfect, obviously.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, there, as much as there are a lot of jokes in the community and a lot of like, haha, like Bretonnian peasant, like shittiest existence possible. Like, I think if they had managed to get 7th and 8th edition books, they really would have taken it very much. And I think we're seeing that with like some of the Total War stuff and then the old world stuff, especially of that. They would have really toned down the kind of Monty Python-ness of it. Or some of the more just like, because like 6th edition especially was grim. It was grim. And so, like, as much as people may joke about like, oh, like the end time, it's like 8th edition, 7th edition, at least there was hope. 6th edition was like, nah, it sucks out here.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter where you live, it sucks.
Yeah, 6th edition was very much the grim and gritty edition, and the artwork tone was completely different to what had come with 5th, where there was often cartoons running around in the marginalia, and that got entirely replaced by these really stark pieces of black and white art, which were just gorgeous and deeply characterful, while simultaneously showing a world that was at its core much grimmer. And Bretonnia never got an update from that. It pretty much just stuck there. And while the rest of the Warhammer moved on, and it's not just that it got hope, it also became higher fantasy. They added newer elements where previously the Empire was quite grounded. As you moved yourself into the 8th edition of the Empire, suddenly we had demigryphs floating around all over the place. We had big, massive war machines like the Hurricaneum et al. And they completely changed the tone of what the Empire was. Bretonnia never got that. So it sort of sat there, treading water, never really moving. And loosely speaking, because we have spoken about this comment for ages now, I would sum up with a brief, I think I agree. And also further, anyone who claims that Cathay is too good doesn't get Cathay.
Hey man, what would you both do if you were in Johan's shoes? At the end of this trailer, Dr. Johan, I would
run.
Yeah, I'd probably run and never look back and really regret the day I picked up that goddamn book. That book just almost got me killed again.
Yeah, totally.
Which god would actually want to save Dodgy? I love the way you're spelling Dodgy Johan.
That is an interesting way to spell Dodgy Johan.
Which god would actually? I don't think Nurgle wanted to save him. It was
none and all. It's all,
yeah,
I think exactly as being discussed there. It's all about preventing the alternative.
Yeah, it was literally just, oh, my brothers are making a move in the game, block. Like, I counter. Krellian, long victory just achieved as Tarmakon. I loved all the battles you could do for the chieftains. Yes, Tarmakon is a very fun campaign that revolves around love story elements, which also, I always really
congrats. Well done.
Yeah, oh yeah, well done. Yeah. Eagle Wing, hear me out, buddy. Oh no, buddy cop comedy sketch starring the 3 Gs: Gotrek, Grimgor, and Gorok, forced to work together and probably don't like it. Probably
a
dwarf, a greenskin, and a lizard man.
Oh, hey, I mean, it's a recipe for success.
Oh my good god. Yeah. They'd be. I will say they would be brutally effective at violence, but that's about it. Like, there's no like, you have 3 ultra violent, just not great thinkers when it comes to like not getting themselves and everyone else killed sitting together. They would cause a lot of property damage. I'll tell you that.
Totally.
Garg, even though it's a Eurocentric story and I'm of Asian descent, I still love Warhammer. I hope things like Cathay and Nippon can grow Warhammer for even more stories. May people like Andy enrich it. I agree.
Yeah, I hope we get more because they've started off pretty goddamn well. And I'll admit, started off has been going for years now, and they've not gone much further. But they have started, and we can hope that they go further.
Yep. Have we discussed what a good job Crimlo did on these trailers? Yep. Yeah, surely. What a great animator. Also, I thought that woman was her sister. I mean, that could be one way to interpret it.
I think it's actually quite fascinating because you often find that people come to these sort of trailers with their own mindsets in place, so they automatically think one thing or another. For me, it was an automatic. I didn't even think or second guess it. I just presumed that they were lovers. I didn't even think.
Yeah, I did too.
I mean, it just didn't cross my mind. But then I come from a background where I know a lot of queer people, and for me, it's just normal. It's not even something I would consider. The second I saw that, it was played like it was a relationship. It wasn't played like they were sisters. If they were playing it like they were sisters, they'd have tried to show they were sisters somehow. But they did nothing to show they were sisters. They did quite a lot to show there was a relationship. So my first thought was relationship, because that is the first thing you generally do. If it had been a man and a woman, you would never have gone, oh, the brother and sister. It wouldn't even have been a consideration.
Yeah.
So yeah. I find it fascinating how different people respond to it, and there is no right response. It's just that you come with your own your own mindset, and you immediately lean one way or another. I find it fascinating.
Yeah, especially because I would not be shocked if you had the animator or the director being like, "Oh, they're just friends." It's not even either option. We're not even. We didn't think
they're just best pals.
We just thought it would be a cool looking scene. We didn't think about it. So before it, late in the stream, has Andy mentioned Michael Moorcock yet?
He has not.
No, he hasn't come. Well, I mean, now he has.
I haven't said it yet.
Bravo, Andy. Hammond just felt a disturbance.
He croaked.
You stole his gimmick. Spooky. Cathay made me so excited for Warhammer 3 as Three Kingdoms and Chinese History Nerd. Has Creative Assembly released any books for them yet? If not, they should get on it. Well, it wouldn't be from Creative Assembly. It'd be from Games Workshop.
From Games Workshop. That'd be their job.
Yeah, there is not surprising, but there's a fair amount of Cathay information within the core rulebook for the new Old World, and that's all we have at the moment that's official from Games Workshop.
Yeah, loosely speaking, if Creative Assembly wanted to publish books like that, they need a new license, a separate license to the one that they already have for computer games, which means it would cost them quite a lot of money.
Yeah. Just got here. Sotek cry yet? No, I'm not going to cry. Thanks out. I say this all the time, but the Cathay trailer made me genuinely emotional because I have friends from China. I forgot what it was. It sounded like. Oh, Miao Ying sounds exactly like one of them.
That's lovely.
That's cute. That's very nice. Corin, Kairos versus Miao Ying, who would win? It depends. It depends on a lot of factors.
It's one of those fights where the side that wins is the side the storyteller at hand wants to win, because you could argue either side with ease.
Yeah, it's I would say Kairos is definitely a better wizard, but Miao Ying will absolutely body his ass in a fight, like a physical fight. So it kind of depends on what the situation is. The Dawn of Grand Cathay is my favorite trailer of the series. So many neat details, like the old ones and visuals for all the new race that was added. Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal. They went out, they knocked it out of the park.
Really did.
Desert Fox, I still watch Sotek's reaction to Grand Cathay today whenever I need to pick me up. His sheer excitement and passion makes it better. Well, I'm glad I can do that.
That's brilliant.
Okay, so I think we're all. Oh, nope. No, in general, not just in this trailer. For Dodgy Johan, what would I do if I were him? Honestly, I'd probably be doing the same thing that he's doing in at least the third game, which is trying to get out of his pact.
I definitely wouldn't do what he did in the first game. As his primary conclusion.
I definitely The moment he got out of his pact, I would have said, "Fuck this book, goodbye," instead of trying to keep it and use it like a dumbass, which is what he did. If you want to know more about that, we did a whole Lorebeard stream on The Advisor. Go watch it.
Yeah,
that was a really fun stream. Same box, a bit off topic. Just took a massive test for my DVM anatomy course. Okay. What Warhammer god should I pray to for becoming a doctor? Always loved the lore.
Hey, Verena wouldn't be a bad shout. Shalia would be another obvious shout, although Shalia tends to rely more on prayer and process rather than necessarily the knowledge that comes hand in hand with, for example, a doctorate. So Verena might be a better option, assuming that we're sticking with the old world gods.
Yeah, hey, if you go watch the LAWhammer series, you could see one of the characters take an exam to become a doctor. He goes through his medical license exam.
He does.
And that was a really fun stream.
Yeah, it was surprisingly fun.
Where Ed was sweating like a motherfucker over
He really was.
Elemental exposure. Who would win episodes coming back when? Those are so much fun. In the nearest future, probably sometime this summer.
Discussions going on in the background about those.
Yes, but they will be different because we're gonna shake up the format a bit, but it should still be a lot of fun.
Yep.
Lord Sarthinius, can't wait to get to the Immortal Empires trailer. See Andy's take on Gelt officially being in Cathay with Zhao Ming. Also, how much for the Gelt hatred story? When we hit 10K subs on the LAWhammer channel, which we're already over 6.
It's been clipping along at a nice pace, but yeah, when we reach 10K subs over on LAWhammer, we will do our Gelt stream where I get to bitch like crazy. But I will say that I really quite like the development that they've had with Gelt moving over towards Cathay. Doesn't mean that
get to it,
but doesn't mean that Gelt deserves any of my time at all. But that doesn't mean that they haven't done a good job with the story.
T-Bone, thank you much for the super chats.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, very generous. There you go. Thank you for the third one. Hey, the new DLCs for Tzeentch and Nurgle added new single entity monsters to both factions. I'm curious what Slaanesh or Khorne might get in their DLCs. So, Khorne, they will almost definitely do the Slaughter Brute. The Slaughter Brute he's technically an undivided monster, but he's so Khorne coded that it's just goofy, where it's a literal giant red monster that is like a melee beat stick. It has no other gimmick other than it hits like a truck.
Yeah, totally.
And it's super cool. It's got like a bunch of swords sticking out of its back, which is which is a ritual used to control it. It's super fun. But you can just look up a Slaughter Brute. For Slaanesh, it's gonna be a little tricky. Slaanesh doesn't have any like super correlated monsters that are left in the game.
I think it would be nice to see them do something though.
Yeah. That being said, if they want to do what they did with like Tzeentch, where they kind of pulled in the cockatrice, even though the cockatrice isn't necessarily Tzeentch coded, but they kind of were just like, it's close. I could see, I think in my opinion, the two monsters that they could kind of wiggle it in, and it either would be exciting additions, would, I think for Slaanesh, and the way I kind of view Slaanesh, I think the Basilisk could work really well.
Basilisk, interesting.
Yeah, or I could also go for the Praeton. If I'm looking from a sense of like corruption, because those are two very corruptive type entities. But Slaanesh, there's just nothing that's really like super him/her/it. That features like Slaanesh is just kind of Slaanesh didn't get a lot of love back in the day. And
Slaanesh is often sidelined, which is a shame because it needs more.
Yeah, I have seen people say the Dreadmaw, but I really don't want that because the Dreadmaw has been confirmed in more recent writings to be a Koreshi monster. So I'm kind of hoping we can keep it for Koresh. And I'm just going to keep praying to whatever gods will listen that we get Koresh. But I will say the big monsters we're missing for Chaos, Warriors of Chaos, and like Demons of Chaos and like that stuff is the Chimera and the Basilisk. Those are probably the two biggies that are still left, outside of like the Slaughter Brute. So one of those would be kind of cool. Shrug. But yeah. All right. Aspiring Nurkles, aspiring doctor should create a Nurgle.
Good old Festus.
Yeah, how can we forget the?
Oh wow, there you go.
Yeah, the acclaimed Dr. Festus.
Yes, quite.
SLG and CP4N. I mean, he is very accomplished.
He is.
Digi-Destined Pichu, could the Slans step on the floating rocks at Cathay without tainting themselves since it's not connected to the planet? I would say no, because it's not that it's connected to the planet, but that Earth tends to absorb magic and be kind of a grounding element for it. So the Slan would probably still view that as a no-no. The only thing the Slan, canonically, that I'm aware of that they're okay with touching that is not floating on like, specifically created things is water. They have like pools that they hang out in when they're not in their palanquins, but they seem very specific about the palanquins, which while made out of stone, they were like kind of shaped by Old One technology. So presumably there's some other fancy stuff going on there. CD4N, think last super chat might be American healthcare trauma. What?
I'm not sure what that's going on about.
Yeah,
I hope
you're
not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that saying that you're having American healthcare drama? I hope not. Lord Sotek, yes, love LAWhammer. LAWhammer, by the way. Sotek, thanks for the positivity in the community. The reason I got, oh, well, thank you, dude. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to say as well that I particularly enjoy Sotek's general positivity. He is astonishingly brilliant for that. And it also means that I can have my occasional whingy moan without everybody going, seriously, this stream is just all whingy moaning. Because I do like a moan every once in a while.
Christopher Clayton, I'll pray to whatever gods will listen. Slash into
the chat. Slides into the chat.
I know what I said. All right, for Koresh, I will do what must be done. Element exposure. Sorry if this touched a nerve, but a 3-way who would win battle involving Nathan would be epic. It doesn't touch a nerve. I can tell you though that will not happen. Sign of the Emperor and the Giant Spine Chaos Beast. That should go to Korn, Nurgle, Warriors of Beastmen. Yeah, the Giant Spine Chaos Beast would be fun. Though it's not as big of a like it's kind of like one of those monsters that's like Manticore tier, not like direct. It's not like big deal monster. It's kind of like a medium tier monster. Because they're basically just heavily mutated big Chaos Warhounds. I mean, they're big, don't get me wrong, but they're not like colossal. I think he's talking about praying to Nurgle. I'll take whoever's listening. Doctors praying to Nurgle would be American healthcare trauma. No, see, Nurgle actually loves his children, unlike the American healthcare system. So, no.
Harsh but true.
All right, so we will now move on to enter the world of Nurgle.
Nurgle time.
Let's get our little
Nurgle.
I fucking love this speech from Kugoth Plaguefather. The way they portray him is so fun. Farting toads. As you do.
The Flesh Legion marches. A pestilent parade. Gaze upon the dominion of life and decay. A fertile universe pregnant with flames. The time for virulent rebirth is upon you. Rejoice in proliferation. Share the gifts of Nurgle.
Yep, that'll do.
Kugoth Plaguefather's voice actor does such a fucking great, and it's, obviously probably the voice direction. The way he enunciates is so great. I don't know what about it comes off as very nerdly to me, but he seems like he sounds like he's just having so much fun, and the way he drags out certain utterances and words, like the way he says proliferation, it's like
proliferation.
I don't know what I love so much about it, but man, do I love it. Also, the pestilent parade, such a great term.
You love a pestilential parade.
Yeah, and it's funny. One of the things that gets pointed out by a lot of 40k fans is how different Kugoth is in his fantasy iteration versus his 40k iteration. Because in 40k, he's more of the very down, serious, kind of depressed figure, whereas in the fantasy iteration, he's much more jolly, which is kind of hilarious. Shows where he prefers being. but I do like, though, especially because it helps add a lot more contrast between him and Epidemius, where Epidemius is very serious, like one of the most serious entities in Nurgle's garden, because as the Grand Tallyman, his job is endless, and that annoys him.
I mean, how could it not?
Which just lets, like, Kugoth, he's just an inventor who's having a great time. So now let's flip the script and see what Nakari has to say.
Being awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Come to me. Brothers and sisters, rejoice.
I love the walk animation.
Pleasure beyond imagining awaits you. Desire
Oh yeah.
Pain. Excess in all things. Critique of perfection. Give yourself to the Dark Prince. Feast on the delights of this world. Submit to Slaanesh.
I will say,
yeah.
A lot of the time, people struggle to find like catchphrases for the gods outside of Khorne. I think Nakari's feast on the delights of this world is the perfect, most horrifying thing to hear from a Celeste demon.
Like, good stuff. I particularly love that we get to see the Age of Sigmar demons popping out there. And I remember when I went down to workshop, when we were about to do the starter set for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. So it was before it was released, and we were busy discussing box sizes and what we were going to include inside it. And when I arrived there, the studio had just finished off doing all of the Slaanesh models for Age of Sigmar. And they were brought in so I could see them. And they were gorgeous. And I just looked at them and I went, holy shit, look at these. And I just turned around and I said, can I use these? Because these are Age of Sigmar ones, but ultimately they are
they're demons.
They're demons. And these things transcend space and time, so to speak. And there's absolutely no reason why the newest version of the demons couldn't be used. And they sort of looked at each other. They looked at me and they went, huh, yeah, I mean, we'd use these. Yeah, you can. And I was like, oh, yes, because they're gorgeous models. But for me, seeing that conversation now be reflected over into Total War, just brilliant, because that conversation that I had has obviously filtered down through the licensees and then moved over into games like Total War. So I like to think that there's just a small, tiniest amount of influence here from me in the conversations I had with licensing when I was down there.
There's probably a little more influence from you than you may think.
So that's just brilliant.
Some of the ways they update the maps. There's somebody at CA who really likes adding enemy within locations whenever they do map updates very stealthily. All right, so next up, we have the last of the demon trailers.
I just want to bring up one comment because seriously. Yeah. Well, let's just move on swiftly.
The Songors could, just their beaks couldn't. There's something about the beak that just couldn't make it.
No, those beaks aren't coming through.
Unfortunately, they're made of AOS only material. Who knows? So this is the last of the demon trailers that has probably the best iteration of the Total War Warhammer 3 theme song. And this is the trailer for The Godslayer, which if you haven't played the prologue or the main campaign, you're like, what the fuck is The Godslayer? And I'm not going to explain that to you because it's a spoiler. You have to play it.
Because I'm going to be playing that very soon.
But essentially what he is your Build-A-Bear character. He's a Build-A-Bear demon prince. So the whole gimmick behind him is he's a demon prince you can customize and you can change what body parts he has. And so this trailer basically kind of shows...
I was sold at Build-A-Bear.
Yeah. So the point of this trailer is to show off his voice actor and also to show off 5 possible versions of the character, where they do one for each god and then the basic bitch undivided form. So he is also sometimes known as Daniel. It was a marketing incident that unfortunately turned into
mortal once. Prince then. Prince now. The gods themselves court me to bear their mark.
And I
have time.
There's Undivided.
To revel in this coming slaughter.
miscast we ever seen a trailer or a dispel.
Nice. It's sporting time.
I am a puppet no longer. I am the God Slayer.
That seems to be quite a lot of work for just one character.
It was. Unfortunately, his campaign suffers for it quite heavily. Where the whole gimmick is around him and only him. And the worst part is he is the only Demons of Chaos character. So if you want to play Demons United, you have to play him.
Oh, wow.
And there's no other characters in his roster. I have been campaigning aggressively to get Be'lakor moved into that roster and have Be'lakor. Yeah, Be'lakor be because right now, because it was a lot easier and they knew they would have to do significantly less work, they stuck Be'lakor in the Warriors of Chaos roster, and I'm trying to get them to put him in the Demons of Chaos roster. But because it's just Daniel and he's fun, but so when when CA did their first portrayal, like their first like let's play where they were showing off his features, you can, when you start a Demon Prince campaign, you can give him whatever name you want. So there's a randomizer button where it generates a random name, or you can type in a name of your choosing. And for the trailer, they were like, oh, and we'll just call him Daniel. So they just called him Daniel for the little thing they did. And of course, the community was like, well, all right, he's Daniel
forever.
And he's Daniel for all of time. All right. So now it's ogre time.
Ogres.
And then we'll do the Enter the World of the Ogres, and then we'll do Super Chats.
No voice in our ears but the more. Raise the sound of its tone. We'll thunder and feast on any man, any beast. Doesn't matter, we'll snack on their moan. The stragglers we did consume are dropped in our sacrifice too. They scream and they run, but that's part of the fun, as the ogres are coming to get ya! There's jumping on knees, feeding our family, our struggling trees.
Love the mob pit.
Clutching and fighting, we kill for the more. The power and that's what we do.
Only Greases can make a burp sound intimidating.
So I love that. I love that because I've always loved ogres. I remember all the way back in 2nd edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, I did a free PDF to add ogres to the game because they just didn't exist. And the amount of people who said you can't have ogres in the Empire. There are no Empire ogres anymore. They don't exist. That's old lore. And I cited source after source after source. Nobody cared. And to make it even more difficult, Games Workshop were of a similar mind at the time because they had yet to decide that ogres were a broadly, let's see, it was just as Ogre Kingdoms were first coming out, and they wanted Ogre Kingdoms to be discreet and to not be something that was everywhere. Nevertheless, the campaign continued on, and as time went on, that eroded quite swiftly. So when eventually we came around to the 4th edition, you'll find that all the rules that I wrote for the 2nd edition of the game were pretty much just uplifted, copy-pasted, and dropped. They just copied chunks of my article that I'd written about 15 years earlier and just dropped it straight in. And this was after I'd left the job. I'll admit I was a bit surprised, but super fascinating to see that the work stood the test of time. So I adore ogres in general. I'm a little bemused that they went for a deeply English accent. I'm always going to call this one out for peoples that come from the East.
Yeah, ogres.
But it'd be very difficult for them not to do that, primarily because you could end up looking like you were doing some sort of terrible racist stereotype. So totally get why they did it, while simultaneously, if you look at it, the accents are very odd as a choice.
Yeah, ogres, if you were doing, like, I think more of a world-building roleplay thing, the ogres would probably have a much different accent than they do pretty much all Games Workshop properties. But I mean, leave it to GW. If they can slap a British accent on something, they will.
That's the truth.
Yeah. So here we'll do the Enter the World of the Ogre Kingdoms, where instead of burping, Greasus will actually chat with us and tell us what he thinks about the world.
Tell me, Greasus, what do you think about the world?
They call us brutes, savages, but we don't care what they's calling us. No one can stop us from looting, eating, what's the easiest ass that they're taking? You have the guts to be a tyrant.
Killed that guy like 5 times over.
Whipping them limb from limb. Eat it till you can't eat no more. The Great Moor's hungry. Devour the Ogre Kingdom.
Great Moor's hungry. So, it's actually interesting hearing further more of the accents. They've kind of fallen into orcs.
Yeah,
that's interesting because they've gone with the same basic London style accent. So they've sort of fallen into a similar area, which is not really what I would have expected. Totally understand why they did it, but that's interesting. Nevertheless, also seeing them only played for jokes, which is kind of there, was both highly entertaining and also a little disappointing because Greasus is actually terrifying.
Yeah, he has some of my favorite diplomacy lines because he's such a bully. Like, he's just a jerk. But I still love, I think my favorite new piece of Greasus lore that they actually gave us in Warhammer 3, which a lot of people don't know because it was released as part of like a article lore bit, was that him being surprisingly good friends with Zhao Ming the Iron Dragon, where Zhao Ming actually got to travel to Greasus Goldtooth's camp, and the two of them got along surprisingly well, in that Zhao Ming was, whatever happened between the two of them, apparently it went well enough that Zhao Ming actually opened up to Greasus about his problems with his father, and Greasus basically gave him the advice of, you know what I did when my dad was disappointed with me? I killed him, and I hate him. Zhao Ming's canonical response, which is one of the quotes you can get on a loading screen, is apparently he laughs in response and goes, well, if I were to do what you were to do, it would be much harder, for you see my father is significantly larger than I am, which is just such a great response.
You get a feeling, though, that the Greasus that we saw there definitely would not be pals with him.
Yeah, no, it's
I mean, he's uncivilized, disordered, an absolute belching mess. Nevertheless, still really love it.
Yeah, he's fun. His diplomacy game is very interesting compared to like Scrag, where, like, granted, Scrag's just fucking insane because every time you have Scrag in the game, he's talking to the Great Maw the entire time. Like, he ignores whoever is talking to him, and he's always just like, "What's that? I can't eat this one. All right, fine. I'll hear what they have to say." You're just like, "Oh, Scrag's fucking crazy." Okay, which, you know, to be fair, he is. Though Scrag does have one of my favorite animations where he literally will take his arms and like scoop infantry models, so he'll like throw them in the air so they go flying into the pot behind him, and then the Noblars just like mix them in with all this stuff. But all right, let's get caught up with the super chats here. Oh gosh, how far back must I go?
Pretty far back.
pretty far back. Y'all are talking a lot. Here we go. Well, Nurgle helped this guy. He did not help me this week because he cursed my food and made me lose 10 pounds in under 12 hours.
Whoa.
Oh, no. Well, at least you know that anything that may have been an issue in your body is now gone.
Yeah.
Expunged.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So sorry for you, dude. Hammond, Slanesh monster, woman from Dude, Where's My Car? Oh, the giant monster lady.
Haven't watched it, so sorry I can't make comment.
That might be it's basically what a
Hey, elemental exposure. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. Nurgle loves you, Andy.
Sadly, it's true. this giant pile of pills that I have over here is test to that.
That's some low-hanging fruit there, Hammond, but
it really was.
Quaid Burley, first time super chat. Oh, thank you so
much.
What's
Quaid?
Just finished Zombie Slayer, and a very dwarfish quote from the book has really stuck with me. We'll never win. Then why do you keep fighting so that we don't lose? Yeah.
Good line.
That is a great line for a dwarf.
Yep, good line. Agreed.
Jenny Fox, just finished reading the Charnel Congress. Do you like the idea of Gotrek and Felix unleashing Manfred on accident or not? So prior to 8th edition, that was just what happened. That was just the way it happened. 8th edition had a huge retcon in that it introduced the concept that Manfred did not die at Helfin, but he went into hiding instead. He pretended to die and then he kind of ran away.
Yep.
Which I will admit that I like that version of the story more, but that's just because I really, really enjoy all the stuff that Manfred does in the hundreds of years after that, to kind of build up to his return of power. And I think it does a good job of making him feel like the threat he's supposed to be. But the Charnel Congress is a super duper duper fun book. So I mean, I have my preference, but I don't think either version is worse than the other. They're just different interpretations of a story.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly what my opinion is as well. Neither is better than the other. Both bring some really interesting things to the table. And sadly, as is often the case with Games Workshop, we are in a position where there are multiple options available. It would obviously have been preferable if they just built a good story and stuck with that. But instead, as we all know, that is not what occurred. And I do love Manfred. Manfred's a great character.
Yeah, clearly we can only sell more models if our lore is a complete clusterfuck. Apparently, that's surely the way it works. Spoiler: his name is Daniel. His name is indeed Daniel. Sotek in 2022. I hate Beaks. Sotek in 2044. I love Beaks. The two very different Beaks.
Different Beaks.
Listen, if I had a nickel for every Beak controversy in Total War, I'd have two. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. You've got the Ogre trailer. We got there.
We did.
These might be in a bit of a weird order, but we're getting them. Mr. Pig, Zongors are like Terminators. They have to be mud. Mood? Made? Wowed? I don't. I don't.
Oh, Mr. Pig, I'm really sorry. I'm not sure what you mean there.
I can't tell if that was just a spelling error or if that's supposed to mean something.
It's 2:15 in the morning at this end, so it could mean anything.
A shame that Daniel has a campaign that's kind of bad. Yeah, I've been working on getting it fixed. Here's hoping. Any ogre legendary lords you want to see? Yeah, where's my Goldfag Maneater? Give them to me. And also, for me, the two that I'm really, really hoping for are Goldfag Maneater and oh my god, I can't remember his name. The one that rides the Mecha Rhinox. That's friends with the Chaos Dwarfs. But I'm sure someone in chat I'm sure a billion people in chat are actually about to spam it. I just can't remember his name all of a sudden. But yeah, those two, if we got those two and that's it, I'd be happy. Ironskin, Gark Ironskin. Thank you. Yeah, Gark Ironskin. Calling it now. Bugman versus Ogres will be the musical episode of Total War. I love musicals. I fucking love me. I'd be super down for a Warhammer musical.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that.
The Ogre King's reveal trailer is a very faithful depiction of me and my friends on a Saturday night. Hammond, why do the ogres look and sound Welsh?
They don't. Mark
I'm
Gibbons.
too American to answer that.
Mark Gibbons, who is Welsh right now, is currently over in LA or very close to it, shaking with anger. Sound Welsh? They do not sound Welsh. They sound far more like an over-exaggerated Mockney, much like they do for most orcs.
Every Scotsman's worst fear, a world of nothing but
Damn
English
straight.
people.
Man, you're not wrong there.
125, thank you so. Yeah, that's truly why Warhammer is a horror setting.
Indeed, it's a dark and grim, perilous place.
Inquisitor Thomas, now we need lizardmen with British accents but still speaking Saurian. They are. It just that's what British sounds like in Saurian. There you go.
There you go.
Hey Andy, what do you think about giving Erloth an elf lady legendary lord / hero harem mechanic for Total War?
Pardon?
Hammond has an obsession with an Erloth harem, even though Erloth is dedicated purely to Lilith and only to Lilith, and that's the whole point of his
Is there
character.
any reason why, Hammond?
No, he just linked onto it.
Is there any? I mean, why?
Hammond is not governed by reason. We already know this.
I'll accept that.
Destroy to create. Don't forget the Norska launch trailer.
Ooh.
Yeah, sure. I'll look that up in a moment.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's on the list, unfortunately. Arch Warlock, catching up on the stream. Just got Thrones of Decay and Sotek. Tell Andy about the sick elves needing help from the. Oh fuck!
What?
You're gonna make me tell him that. Okay, so they did one thing that was very strange that I didn't like. So Epidemius has every character has a quest battle, and a quest battle is like a story battle where there's like a little storyline, and then you go in and they give a big speech or whatever.
Yep.
And most of them are usually really cool references to something from that character's background. So I was hoping for Epidemius's quest battle, they were going to do the incident where he attacks Nagarond because he comes to harvest Malekith's soul. And then Malekith ends up just sending out a bunch of dark elves and Malekith's like, take their souls in exchange for mine. And Epidemius is like, all right, deal. Which is hilarious. That's what I was hoping it was going to be. Instead, they do a story where Epidemius finds out he didn't cause it. He just seems to kind of find out about it, I guess. Or maybe he did cause it. I have to go back and look. But apparently, there is a group of high elves that get infected by a plague. So this army of high elves gets infected by like a magical disease. And Epidemius really, really wants to see this disease. The problem is the elves have retreated to the White Tower of Hoeth to get treatment.
Okay.
But the part that I don't understand why the writers of the quest battle did this, the elves send for someone to help them in curing this disease. They need help. And who do they send for?
I don't know.
A prophetess of the lady.
What?
Bretonia. So
what?
a Bretonian prophetess leaves Bretonia with the Bretonian army.
What?
Ulthuan to help cure the elves of their disease. And
what?
He shows up to stop them. And I'm like, I don't understand.
What?
This doesn't make any sense.
Also, what?
But it's a bizarre quest battle.
So you're saying you're playing a chaos campaign and you're twiddling around, chasing down some elves, and then suddenly knights come out of nowhere. Prophetess
in Ulthuan.
In Ulthuan.
Cure the elves from a disease they cannot cure themselves.
Yeah, that's some proper bullshit right there. Yeah, no.
Yeah, legit lore-wise, the worst quest battle I've ever seen.
Okay, that was proper crazy. Okay, fair enough. I can understand why you wanted that story shared so that I can laugh at it.
Yeah, the battle itself, very fun. The mechanic is really cool where you're like, you have to try and keep the elves off because the disease will hurt the elves the longer you hold off the Bretonians. That part's really fun. But like, why? Like, if they had flipped it where it was an army of Bretonians that had a horrible disease and the elves had come to help cure them because the prophetess couldn't, I could have bought that.
Okay, so here's a piece of lore that many of you may not know. The cult of Shalia, the goddess of mercy in the Empire and the Old World as a whole, actually has its cult center in Bretonia. Okay, now get this. So the ultimate expression of anti-diseaseness in the Old World is in Bretonia. So you could argue that there's a link there, but they just did not follow it through.
Yeah, but Anywho, so yeah, there's that.
Anywho,
okay, Mr. Pig was supposed to be new.
Ah,
I got you now. I got you. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shady Elf, if you followed Korn, would you change your name to Goremaster of Sotek?
Or Goremaster of Corn?
Yeah, probably Goremaster of Korn. though,
saying.
Yeah, though I do think there is a heretical argument to be made of like the bloodlust and hatred that Sotek inspires in the Lizardmen, which is a little alarming.
Well, I think there's definitely something to be said in the emotional awakening of the Lizardmen.
Yep. Elemental exposure. Does Kugoth have a different origin story in fantasy versus 40k? In 40k's Genesis ruined one of Nurgle's best experiments, hence the sadness fantasy. So in fantasy, they don't delve super far into it, though there was a lore post by Andy Hall that did confirm that Kugoth still has the same origin of that he was a Nurgling that falls into Grandfather Nurgle's cauldron and he absorbs everything that was in it and turns into Grand Clewen, and Nurgle's like, oh, that's amazing. But in the fantasy story, I don't believe it's that he ruins the grandfather's, like, I think it was the best disease at the time or something similar to it. But Kugoth is portrayed much more heavily as someone that is heavily inspired by this moment and delighted to recreate and enhance what he absorbed. But he's portrayed as a much more he's a very calculating figure, but he is far more jolly. Like, even if you go look at his 7th edition artwork, he's got this big horrifying smile plastered on his face. Because the 7th edition Demons of Chaos artwork was gorgeous. It was this really weird, it literally looked like an insane person was painting like what they imagined the demons to look like, which is great, and they look fantastic. But Kugoth, like, he literally is just this dude that explores the world collecting ingredients, often, unfortunately for them, living people from different races and species, to stuff in his Hetzian sacks, and he takes them back to Grandfather's mansion where he has his own room because he's so favored. And he experiments there, but he's not portrayed in any way as like a depressed or sad individual. So it just seems that for whatever reason in the fantasy universe versus the 40k universe, he just had a different outlook on his creation.
Yeah. I think it's worth saying that you tend to find the ideas that are ported from Warhammer over to 40k are deeply rewritten, developed, and turned into something new. But when ideas are ported over from 40k into Warhammer, they're given general allusions, vague nods, and often not given the same depth or development because, interestingly, they're happy to contradict the Warhammer lore in 40k, but they're not really happy contradicting 40k lore in Warhammer. And I think that speaks a lot to the individual writers and where they actually place 40k and Warhammer in their own minds. One of the biggest crimes I have generally felt is not the crossover between the two. That's fine. I don't really care. It all makes sense in many respects. But the sublimation, the dropping down of importance of Warhammer beneath 40k is, for me, an actual crime, because it makes the Warhammer setting less if they just port over a bit and don't justify what it is within the Warhammer setting. Now, sometimes they do it well, but most times they do not. And they just give vague stories and they sort of brush it aside and go, well, that's a cool thing that's just happened. Let's be done with it.
Yeah, we were here first, damn it.
Yeah, we were.
Let's see. What about the Necromancer Ogre? I really like him. The Necromancer Ogre, so the thing I'll say against him is that he is quite literally like a little paragraph lore blurb that kind of shows up randomly in the Ogre Kingdom army book. He's not a playable character. He doesn't have any magic items that you can take. He doesn't show up in like the magic item section. He's quite literally just a fun little story, which is fine. Like, if someone's like, well, I really would love to see that adapted, I totally get that, and I can respect that as an opinion. I don't personally agree with it. I like to prioritize the characters that have like a wealth of stories to them and had like models and tabletop rules and all that stuff. They should be prioritized. And if we get to the point where we've done all those guys and we're like, oh no, we need another ogre, then okay, yeah, sure, let's go to the bottom of the barrel. But I don't like to go straight to the bottom of the barrel.
What he said.
Otherwise, we get a Helm and Gore situation.
Yep.
Erloth needs a Crimlo harem mechanic instead. Y'all just,
does he?
Y'all
really?
why are y'all torturing my poor boy Erlof like this? Like you got like Sigvald right there.
True fact.
You're going after poor Erlof. By the way, Sotek and Andy, mod that adds repeaters is out. Cool. I'm not going to use it, but duly noted. Adds repeater. So the Known Ironsides got shown with repeater handguns, and then apparently games CA won't say it, but it seems very heavily insinuating. Games Workshop came to them and said, no, they have to have handguns because their original designs had handguns, so you have to change it. So well, they got forced to change it, so now they have handguns again.
Wow.
And a lot of the Total War community went, that's stupid. We liked the repeater guns, so we're going to mod them back. And they did.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, which was interesting because with the repeaters, they actually had a really fun gimmick where they were the shorter range, but like, you know, they fired like a whole fucking volley.
It made them unique and interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. GW was like, no, sir. That does not match their design in the Tarmacon book, so you have to change it. Which is very interesting. All right, bangs out. Last one before we carry on with the next thing. You should tell Andy about the Emmerich and Miaoying shipping.
Oh, I'm quite aware of it, and I strongly disapprove.
Yeah, it's one of the funniest ones because man, those two would fucking hate each other.
Oh, they hate each other so much.
But the art and the memes have been like top tier. Like
I imagine they probably are.
Like the amount of people that like I've seen some genuinely beautiful artwork from people that are fans of that ship. Which to me, that's the best kind of ship, is the ones that are demented and have no chance of actually happening.
See, that's just perfect.
Like, people are like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going with this thing till it sinks. That is the I think that's the best way to approach them. In which case, it's a perfect ship. Okay, let me see if I can find this Norska Warhammer trailer real quick.
I don't think I've seen this one. I'm very excited.
Oh yeah, there is a launch trailer. Oh. Is
I
it just
kind of love Norska because
we will swing back around to this. It might not be in this stream because this technically falls under the movies involving the advisor, which are different. So there are a lot of in-game cinematics with the advisor.
Yeah, so we'll do those ones later, I think.
Yeah. So we will watch those, but not yet. We want to get through all the like trailers first. Speaking of which, it's time for the Champions of Chaos. So we'll burst through these as well as the Blood for the Blood God 3 trailer.
Gosh, there's quite a few. Look at them.
Yeah, so there are 4 Chaos Champion trailers, and then there was kind of a wrap-up one. So first we have Azazel. Oh, he's so bored. A challenger.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Dude, you're fucked. Love it.
Yeah, so Azazel is great. I think this trailer actually does a perfect job of kind of displaying elements of his personality. Super fun, where he's just bored until there's someone to actually challenge him.
Interesting choice of garb, very Roman.
Yeah, he's got kind of got the fancy cloak on. His diplomacy lines are so rude and dirty. Like he talks so much shit about Sigmar. About Ulrich, like he brings up the whole thing about the time he made a bunch of Ulrich and Templars like lay on all fours and act like dogs because he broke them. Like he's a dick in campaign, which is great. Like Azazel he's something. Next up, we got
Festus
the Leech Lord.
Festus.
Doesn't even care about the fighting.
Insufficient. No. 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 No.
The Chaos War Shrine.
Nice.
The ingredient was life, and it has so willingly come.
It's interesting that he kind of got put in the Northern Empire characters like Marcus Wolfhart, where he's like very Scottish.
He doesn't sound that Scottish. I'd have preferred if you found it totally Scottish. I'd have been well behind that. My Nordland is very Scottish in general.
His trailer is super duper fun. I love his familiar. To my understanding, it has a name. Apparently, CA said it has a name. But I don't know what its name is. But one of the things I love about this trailer is that it's actually got all these goofy cameos where the little demon keeps offering him bits and pieces from the other trailers. So, like, the first thing it offers to him here. So that's one of the helmets from the Beastman Kasrak trailer.
Nice.
Kasrak's like stabbing into the Chaos War Shrine. And then the next thing he brings him is the sprocket or the little valve that the dwarf was getting in the dwarf trailer to put in the gyrocopter.
Nice. Put the gyrocopter. Good job.
And then the last one is the Luther Harkins Lizardman artifact.
I recognize that one. It was the only one I recognized.
Why these are here on this battlefield, but it's just a really funny little series of references. All right. But yeah, Festus, he's super fun. I did not realize from the old Festus model, because I just never really seen it, that he just had this horrible tentacle mutation that is so big. Like, God, his mutations are hideous. Festus is
Festus for you.
Ugly motherfucker. Though this guy is way creepier.
Nice.
It's a trap. It's a double trap. An old village.
That was fun.
He looks fucking horrifying.
Yeah, I love that. That's pretty cool.
Like, honestly, his body horror is like peak. Village is he's just a fucking parasite. He's
love that.
Nasty. All right, and then last, but certainly
Valkyria. Yeah.
I'm curious what you're going to think of her trailer.
Oh no, don't say that. That makes me oh no, I'm all anxious now.
Don't worry. Like, in game, she's fucking amazing. Just the trailer's a little interesting.
Okay.
I really like the Chaos Lord of Slanesh design. He looks good. Got the big head crest. She looks so good, though. That scene is great.
Sure.
Yeah, it got a lot of people kind of memed on this one when it came out. But hey, the way they updated her design, fucking awesome. She looks amazing. But a lot of people memed on this one really hard because, like, the other three is just them being awesome, and hers is her getting her ass
beaten
kicked
up.
for 5 seconds.
So I didn't want to be that guy. I was watching it going, oh man, really? Oh man, really? I mean, really, yeah, really. Nevertheless, she looks cool.
Yeah, and like the scene where she goes up in the air and her wings like fold to make that kind of like U shape, fucking awesome. She looks amazing. And luckily in game, she is terrifying. And her voice actress is so good. Her voice actress is fucking great. So this was the actual launch trailer for Champions of Chaos once they did the little teasers showing off the other 4. So it shows mostly their scenes, but it includes a very notable bonus thing. And also,
quite enjoying
as the 4 ruinous powers play their great game, so too must their champions. Forever pursuing their patron's favor. To be favored is to be blessed. But others will always come, seeking to claim their prize.
Yeah.
A champion does not retreat from such opportunity.
It's all worth it for the end bit.
A chance to prove their worth. Now the time has come to reap what has been sown.
Welcome to Zen by
The
Jin.
true test awaits.
Look how short this is.
Oh, Elric. What did you call
That's
it?
yeah. Fucking Elric.
Well, it wasn't Elric, it was Dan.
Yeah, this is like a wallpaper. Like that is
that's pretty
gorgeous.
fucking cool.
Yeah, so the Champions of Chaos DLC is really, really fun because even though Tarmogon's not in it, it revolves around each of the 4 characters. You're competing to take control of Zanbai Jin and crack it open to get all the souls that are in it, which is just cool. It's a great concept for a campaign.
Nice.
Yeah, this was a really exciting reveal because this was actually a redesign for Archaon because Dorger was much smaller in his previous version. He was more like a pony. Now he's a proper chaos steed. Well, demonic thing, steed, whatever. All right, and then
cool.
Blood for the Blood God 3, and then we'll probably wrap up for tonight with. I guess we could do
Immortal Empires.
Immortal Empires, and then do you want to do
Immortal
Chaos
Empires?
Dwarfs?
Oh yeah, fucking right, I do because I love that trailer.
Okay, so Blood for the Blood God. This one, I'm kind of tempted to skip it. Like it's more funny than anything.
Which one's this one?
So it's Blood for the Blood God 3, which kind of shows up the new.
Oh, I mean, it'll only take a few moments.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
The other two were very serious. This was just a fucking goof, which is fine. It's just interesting.
I mean, you've got to watch the bad ones too.
In his short life.
In his short life.
He told me, we do not explore frontiers.
No.
We tame them.
We tame them.
We do not climb mountains. We conquer them.
Love ogres. Look at that.
We do not despair, Chaos. We are Kislev. We do not have blood. We have eyes. And ice cannot be spilled.
Dude just dies immediately.
Dies
Immediately against our brand. But you know, fair.
Was that a Wilhelm scream there? Boom, boom, ba dum ba dum ba boom.
Blood for the blood god, skull for the skull throne.
Yes, blood for the blood god.
It just cracks me up so much that it's just like his father's giving him his epic speech, and then he runs up the Scarbrand, it's just like squish. Which, you know, to be fair, I think that's an accurate portrayal of how that situation would go. But
Fair.
all right, so here we have the teaser trailer.
The teaser for Immortal Empires. All right, teaser it is. Oh, I feel so teased.
This one has some really cool clips. The Fae fighting alongside the ogres. And then Nurgle aiding the Skaven.
Yeah!
Oh, I love that bell ring. That's ominous.
Oh, look at that.
Dark Elves in the Empire.
Summon the Elector Counts.
Summon the Elector Count.
The Elector Count. Summon those annoying bastards. All right.
Why is
Then-
Manfred here?
So this oh god, the Immortal Empires map is super duper fun, but it's long, 13 minutes. We'll come back to that.
Oh,
one.
that's really long. 13
Yeah.
minutes.
So let's do the proper Immortal Empires trailer.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just finish out the trailer tonight, and then and then we can do stuff another time. The other stuff another time, which will be fine. I fucking love this trailer. Little concrete light.
Clouds gather. Our borders are beset by evil.
I'm looking forward to my favorite hammer scene.
And immortal. How long can we withstand this onslaught? We must form an alliance.
Karl Franz looks so much older in this
Leave
trailer,
the
which I like.
alone.
I really like his
We'll survive
updated design. He looks
together.
much older.
I concur. This
I concur.
threat is beyond any of us. With the Azur's guidance,
This is just another Algates game. I see many ladies here, but you even speak for your people.
High King, this is not the time for short-sightedness.
Short? There'll be no alliance with elves while I'm High King. Only a reckoning.
Only a reckoning.
Hugath and Mazdamundi.
Walk away.
Oh. Gotrek and Felix versus Starbrand and 2 other Bloodthirsters. Hell yeah. Wolfric and Cathay. Awesome. And then Big Daddy himself.
Enough! We must not be
The
blinded.
world's strongest
by
table
our
has
own
struck
need
again.
for power. This is the moment.
Oh, yes.
Romrindal and Tyrion
Yep.
back to back.
Your choices will decide the fate of this world.
Chariot charge!
And that's where we got the guns coming from.
Me?
Make the right one.
Fire knife. God damn it, I want to be playing that game right now.
Yeah, it's good shit.
Mm-hmm. You know. Oh, here's Dwarf teaser.
Yeah. Such a just dial it up even harder.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this trailer, I'm not gonna wax too lyrical on it. There's a video of me literally like losing my shit on this. If you want to go watch that. God, I fucking love it though. Though the table is hilarious. Like all right,
It is every single time.
Of?
What's the table made of?
The Thorgrim be like, bring out my runically protected table, just in case Franz hits it with his damn hammer.
It's the table of power.
But yeah, fucking
LG scheme.
Yeah, Thorgrim. I love that Thorgrim just immediately derails the entire.
Short. Short.
To be fair, though, I did love his accusation to Teclis, where it's like, you see, it's like, oh yeah, the Bretonnians are being represented by King Lewin, and the Kislevites are being represented by like a high-ranking member of the Ice Court, and you've got like a Shukengun, a direct descendant of the dragons, along with Lord Magistrates, and Thorgrim's like, really? The elf sent a fucking wizard? Like,
he's not. He's the High Lord Master of both. I think it's bullshit. If he's going to call out for the elves, you should call out for all the rest that don't have the requisite monarch at all. I'm going to call prejudice from a dwarf.
Of Thorgrim being like, he's willing to let the fact that the Tsarina and the Dragon Emperor are not here. He's willing to let that go. But he's like, oh, the Phoenix King isn't here? Well, fuck you guys.
Oh, no, to show him his crown.
I also love that they didn't go too over the top with this scene. Like, it could have, I'm sure it could have been easy or tempting to have like wood elves and lizardmen and stuff at this meeting, but I like that they kept it to the races who would have actually showed up, and actually been invited. Like, wood elves would have been like, nah, we're busy, fuck off. We're doing our own shit.
Yeah, that's what else for you. Azrai, yeah, nah.
Yeah. Also, just the portrayal of like characters that we've never seen before from like a lore standpoint, invading other parts of the world, like Wolfric the Wanderer leading an invasion of Grand Cathay. Fucking awesome. Something I definitely think would have happened in his storylines. You got Malekith attacking Ulthuan again.
Again.
So many fucking good things. So, before we do the Chaos Dwarfs, I don't know if you've seen this one, Andy. Have you seen the Herald Hammerstorm trailer?
I haven't.
Oh, man. You're in for a good one. This is a good one.
Okay.
It's basically just his origin video. It's great.
In the tales of the Norse and the Kurgan, there is legend of a warrior unparalleled. champion, forged in the heart of fear, who reached into the grave and found only hate.
A blood dragon.
Arise!
To embrace such hate is to become a nightmare. It is to wield dread as lesser men wield armies.
Right.
It is to become fear itself. It is to become the Hammer Storm.
Vlad von Karstein.
Yeah, sure.
For those who don't know, that's actually a really cute End Times reference because Harry the Hammer does fight Vlad in the End Times.
Yep.
And it does not go well for Harry the Hammer.
I have painted Harry the Hammer like about 12 times. And when they re-released the model, I say recently, it wasn't recently at all, but when they re-released it,
10
years ago or something. But yeah, when they re-released it, it was one of those rare examples where I was like, click, 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 click. I'm having myself a new Harry the Hammer. And it's sitting over there somewhere, as I recall. But yeah.
Here, take my money. Give me the
Damn
money.
straight. Good old Harry the
That's
Hammer.
how I'm feeling about the new Grombrindle model they showed off for the 50th.
It's nice.
book. It's a nice fucking Grombrindle model.
It's really a nice model.
All right, so here we have the Chaos Dwarves, who have a fucking fantastic trailer.
Forsaken. Abandoned to the dark. What choice but to follow the flame?
Hell yeah.
The fire to tear down the old ways. Burning away all fear.
I love that they did not
and weakness.
Like make him modernized. They just kept his goofy colors. Oh.
Nothing
Sorry,
remains but power and ambition. This roaring fire will always demand more. More fuel. More sacrifice. The fiercest heat to forge the hardest steel. Destiny.
Freaking love the Infernals.
Rising from within the crucible.
Drazo.
Oh, yeah.
To seize the world.
It still amuses me.
Is to see it.
They made it work.
Burn
It looks great.
First.
Fucking hell.
It was so impressive to me that they took Zatan and Astrogoth's OG designs and somehow made them work.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw this trailer, because unlike most of the trailers, this is one I've seen. And I recall pinging Mark Gibbons, who did all of the internal artwork for the Chaos Dwarf Army list, because they're basically his Chaos Dwarves. The Chaos Dwarves that he drew all the way back then. I was like, holy shit, Mark. they've used your version of the Chaos Dwarfs. Now, it's not uncommon to find Mark's work being reused again and again and again. Like, for example, pretty much all the special Chaos Space Marine models are based upon lots of his artwork that he did for 40k. And we're talking everything from his version of Mephiston, pardon me, or whatever. But in this case, I did not expect it. I was expecting the Chaos Dwarfs for Total War to look like what they did with Forge World, where they updated it significantly and made them much grimmer and less comical. But no, they went with the original designs and incorporated aspects of the Forge World designs. So there's lots of bits, particularly for the newer models, for the Kadai or whatever. So they're all slapped in there, and it's just a lovely mixture of everything that there ever was. And again, stunned. Love it.
Yeah, and I was the Lamasu, what a glow up. Like,
look at that. The old model was terrible.
It was hideous. Like the face was like
50%
of the model.
Yeah, it wasn't a good model. I painted that one about 4 or 5 times in my time, and I never managed to get a single one that didn't look bad. The Great Taurus, you could get a good look out of that one, but the Lamasu, no.
Yeah, and of course the Dune scene referencing the, I think what the Sardaukars, what I think they're called, from the movie. That's a kick-ass way to show off the Black Fortress.
Yeah,
like being that military focused group of Chaos Dwarfs. All right, the next ones that we've got, and then we're done, is just Shadows of Change, the Shadows of Change trailer, and that's it.
Oh wow, we've done pretty well.
Yeah, and then if we want to look at a couple more things, we can, or we can call it there. We'll check in at the end of that. So we've got we did the Tarmacon one last week, so I don't think we did do it again. So this one was Shadows of Change, but they went really story heavy on this one.
Yeah, which always
no dialogue, but telling a fun story.
Changeling.
Little shit.
Oh yeah.
That's it, he's fucked.
Oh yeah.
Echoed Hellbrass.
Fucking yeah.
And the blue horde, or the blue scribe. Oh, look at that fucking thing.
Crunch. Uh-oh. Nice.
He comes out of his own breath attack. Yeah. Such a little bastard. This was a really fun trailer. Just like they just tell a fun story with it. Of like Changeling's literally just out there causing problems. That's what he does best.
Pretty much exactly what the Changeling does. I would have been really amused if they'd used just the slightest small bit with the Changeling going against Chaos as well, because the Changeling literally does fuck everybody's day up. But yeah, loved that.
Yeah, well, it's like a part of me wonders if he kind of does, because it's like he's the one that gives that missive to Yonbo about the Chaos Army. So I almost wonder if it's like the Chaos Army was trying to do something else, and he's like, "Hey,
yeah,
no
you want to know
what my buddies are?"
Totally. I mean, the biggest, I think the biggest disappointment for me with Shadows of Change was just how fucking awesome it looked. And then when you actually saw what it initially offered, you were just left going, "Oh, really?"
What? I thought your biggest disappointment was the gaggle of crowmen.
Okay, that fucking gaggle of crowmen does deserve. Oh man.
The gaggle of crows.
Gaggle of crows. Seriously. You've
yeah.
got an obvious murder option there. Or if you wish to go a little bit more, I don't know, prosaic perhaps, a parliament of crows, a parliament of ravens in particular, but no. No, a gaggle.
So
the
funny.
geese. The gaggle of geese.
But yeah, thankfully, Shadows of Change definitely was a rough year.
It was. And I wasn't even playing the game at that point or all that interested. And it was so clearly rubbish.
I will say it's very nice to be in better times.
Yeah, totally.
There's been a lot of chatter about how even though it's only Wednesday, the player numbers for Total War Warhammer 3 right now are higher than the peak during the Chaos Dwarfs. Like there are already more people playing now than there were during the Chaos Dwarf release, and it's not the weekend yet when most people have time off. So it's like Warhammer 3 is bumping with Thrones of Decay. Which is great. And I mean, it's just because there's so much, like, so many new things of, like, you know, the Empire campaigns all got refreshed and the Dwarfs are really exciting again. They fixed a lot of things and the new campaigns are great. But, like, Gelt being in Cathay is, like, so fucking fun and is, like, such a different experience. It's nice.
Well,
all right.
Well, I am very hopeful that they make lots of money and decide to do it similar again.
Yeah, really. Second the Emperor, I think it's an unkindness of ravens.
An unkindness of ravens is one of the many collective nouns you can use. Ravens and crows and corvids in general have a surprising number of them. I only know this because we were having a chat way back when we first founded the Rookery, which is our own little company that does games like Dark Deeds, which is just sitting there in the background. And we were discussing which terms that we would use for various things. So, for example, if over on the Rookery Discord, the private server that we have just for people who work for the Rookery is the Parliament, because it's a Parliament of Crows. But yeah, unkindness is indeed one of them, but it sounds rubbish. So not one that I would ever use in a novel, for example.
There's so many good ones, like where it's like, oh, you have the unkindness, a conspiracy, a murder.
In fact, I just pulled that one up right there. Yeah. Ravens, a conspiracy, but there is, pardon me. There is quite a number of different ones that are out there. Yeah.
Let's see. Godzilla Chaos Dwarf trailer is my favorite in the whole franchise so far, with the Immortal Empires being a close second. Hey, yeah, that's totally fair.
I think that's totally fair, Godzilla. When I first saw it, it was one of those rare times when I watched a trailer and went, I thought I would hate this for the choices they've made, and they've sold me. And that's rare for me because I'm an opinionated sod, but no, really loved it.
Chaos Dwarves was one of the most pleasant surprises in the next to like Grand Cathay. Those are like the two biggest, like, oh my God, they did really good with this.
Yeah.
That's a very cool gaggle. Yeah, a very cool gaggle of crows. Thank you, Hammond. Still loading.
Thanks, Hammond.
Is there more lore on men? Oh, snake men or chorfs, snake men stream. I mean, theoretically, we could do Chaos Dwarves. Go watch our Zarnagrand Lord Beards.
Yeah.
That was, I honestly think, one of our best Lord Beard episodes.
Yeah, it's a good episode, and we really do take some unexpected choices as we make our way through it, as we discuss the lore, and not only the lore as it is, but the lore as it could be.
Yeah, I'm fully convinced we figured out like the best possible canon answer to a big question.
Yeah, and I also think that it'll probably never be taken. But that doesn't change the fact that it is a damn fine answer.
Snakeman, though, one day. There's
not a huge amount. There's bits here and smatterings there.
That would probably fall under a stream dedicated to like I almost want to call it like the fog of like edge of the map. Maybe that's what we would call it.
Yeah. Like, I used to have some snake men back in the day.
About like
from my old Warhammer army.
Nippon, the Hobgoblin Khanate, the Centaurs. Like maybe we talk about a lot of the really lesser known things.
Yeah, there's quite a lot on the Centaurs, surprisingly. There's a fair chunk.
Because I didn't even know they existed until I came across them in the Liber Chaotica.
There you go. I had
which was super funny.
I had 2 regiments of 20 of them back in the day. Yeah, good old centaurs.
Is Harry's hand called
that's quite good. That's quite good.
Let's see. The elves now have a counter to being called Knife Ear. Short. I feel like the elves could do better than that.
Knife Ear. I mean, is Knife Ear really a Warhammer thing, or is that more Dragon Age?
Well, I mean, I've heard of a Knife Ear tax in some Warhammer books. I think it shows up in. Oh God, there's one place. But anyway, what I was gonna say is, if you want to get a good tutorial on your dwarf to elf insults, go read Gotrek and Felix Giant Slayer. It's hilarious.
Buff,
It is a fucking funny book.
Quite.
Like it's epic, but like Teclis and Gotrek going at it, they have some good one-liners. It's a good one. CB4N, biggest Thrones of Decay letdown. The world's strongest table was not added as a magical item for Carl Franz.
You know, I reckon you could probably get a really fun nod to that in the game somehow.
Yeah, well, I think I saw somebody. Oh yeah. The table is just Thorgrim's throne of power. I just threw the map over it. It's funny. Hammond, show him the goblin slave being thrown to the lava. I think he's aware of that because I think we've talked about it in the past. Where in the Immortal Empires, you just see that random goblin get kicked in.
Yep.
How would a conversation between Tyrion and Grombrindal go? I mean, it'd probably be interesting. I don't know.
As we discussed at length in the Grombrindal stream, which I recommend you go check if you haven't already.
That's
that Grombrindal is not like in any way, shape, or form Thorgrim. Grombrindal is almost certainly an individual who has very strong, abiding, positive feelings for elves, regardless of where it all ended up. So, for all the oath broke, there is, I think, quite a lot of good there.
Yeah, when you're looking at like the whole concept of Immortal Empires, which actually kind of introduced, like Immortal Empires does the really cool thing of introducing the concept of like Grombrindal going to see Malekith. Now, whether he's going to kill him or talk to him or whatever depends on your interpretations. Go watch our Grombrindal episode for a lot of thoughts on that. But the idea that, you know, he comes across Tyrion being attacked by an army of Skaven and Dark Elves and is like, oh, I need to help. That is completely something Grombrindal would do.
Damn straight, yeah.
Which is great. Let's
great.
see. What about the Immortal Empire showcase video? I assume you mean, so we watched the two, unless you're talking about the map one, but that one's it's fun, but it's very long.
13 minutes, yeah.
The one scene of Archaon is insanely cool. He looks like the horseman of the goddamn apocalypse. It's almost like that's maybe exactly what it is. Made me believe he could be the Bane of Worlds. Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of art. And B, it's Archaon as he should look. Like that is what you should see when Archaon comes riding up.
Archaon got absolutely trashed by Games Workshop back in around about 2004 or something like that, where it's approximately then when the Storm of Chaos campaign was done, and Archaon came across like an absolute idiot, and got utterly annihilated and eventually headbutt by an orc. The whole thing was daft, and it was very hard for people to shake off that image who had gone through it. They had played the campaigns or they'd watched everything that happened in White Dwarf, and basically they were left with Archaon's a bit of a silly character. And seeing that really does just reaffirm how freaking cool Archaon is in terms of what he was supposed to be, rather than what the campaign had broadly portrayed him
that's
as.
Definitely one of those moments where you go, oh, okay, that's 8th edition Archaon, not 6th edition Archaon.
Totally.
Though, you know, as much as I like to make fun of it, we did get some really fucking cool novels post Storm of Chaos that were super duper fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of good writing around it. I'm just Archaon.
Yeah, the Archaon himself, just man.
Yeah, I know.
Let's see. Chaos Dwarf trailer is super Iron Warriors coded, except for the God Worship. I think you mean to say that Iron Warriors are super Chaos Dwarf coded, but I
think so. But we'll let it slide.
We were here first, but whatever. That guy, you know, I am ride or die Bellicor, but that shot of Archaon is so amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of Archaon, I will say, if y'all have not started watching the LAWhammer series, I'm just saying there might be something that if you've ever like, man, I would love to explore Archaon more as a character before he's Archaon. I'm just saying, maybe you should watch LAWhammer. Just saying.
Yeah. He gets around, doesn't he, that Archaon?
Oh God, there's a mod called the Village People.
There is not, is there?
Customized YMCA ZGN diplomacy lines to Village. What?
Young man.
Oh no. Oh no. God, mods are truly something. Tyrant 25, do you find Festus relatable as a Scottish person who spreads disease wherever he goes?
It's actually really funny watching that advert. It was really funny watching that ad, particularly when you got the combined ads of the 4 Chaos Powers together. And Festus one is very much doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Everyone else is like, ah! Ooh, ah! Ooh, ah! Festus is like doo-ba-doo-ba-doo, which amused me.
Yeah, I love his dialogue in game. Because he just sounds like he's just having a good time. He just sounds like he's having a good time, pretty much always. Felix and Sword drives him into a violent rage whenever dragons are near. How long would he last in Cathay where a significant chunk of the population descended from dragons? Wow, we'd have to sit down here and break down what percentage of blood needs to be draconic for the runes or the magic of the Caragul.
Are they the same type of dragon?
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that would the magic that was used to make I forget, is Caragul a magic sword or a runic sword?
I forget. I'm pretty sure it's runic, but I need to check it.
Yeah, I think it's
wild.
I mean, it's called Caragul, which makes me think it's Dwarf.
Pretty convinced it's Dwarf.
Which, if that's the case, it's very likely with how specific dwarf runes are. But I mean, at the same time, it does activate against the sea dragon that was pulling the Black Ark, which is also very different.
So very different. Yeah.
So it's point. By that standard, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. Good question.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
And yes,
great question. Thanks, Peter.
Felix would definitely need to. Granted, if you read the novels, Felix does have the ability to clamp down on Caragul. Like, he can wrestle with it. It's hard, but he can do it. But yeah, Cathay would probably be a, if he went there, you might have to write a pretty comical thing about Gotrek getting him under control, and he might not be able to use Caragul while he's in Cathay, which would probably be very spooky for him. Which would be fun. Valkia, my beloved. I will say, I love that Warhammer Fantasy. It's so fascinating because this concept doesn't exist in the 40k verse, but I love that in fantasy, of all the chaos gods to have a paramour, it's Khorne, which is so fucking fascinating.
It was stories like that made me very happy with Warhammer in general, and the idea that it was perhaps going to take its own route through the, let's say, tumultuous waters that are the Chaos Gods, and trying to make them characterful and meaningful for Warhammer. In 40k, they've almost become this vast, all-encompassing force that wiped out everything else, all the Eldar gods or whatever. But when we come back over to Warhammer, they keep on porting the 40k-isms over to the point that all the other gods are just chaos, right? And it was really nice to see them taking steps away from that and making the Chaos Gods a part of the Warhammer world rather than necessarily the antithesis on the other side. So yes, Valkia, I think, is an actually great character because she adds character to the entire setting, not just that individual little pocket where she hides, which for me is just the best. So thanks for that.
We really got to do a Lord Beers and Valkia at some point in the
it's like Valkia is awesome.
She's a fucking fascinating figure. Like, she's people don't realize how big of a fucking deal she is.
Yeah, Valkia is there's we've discussed this in the past between us. But there are certain Warhammer characters that are significantly more important than many people realize. And for me, Valkia is potentially Valkia is one of those, because she influences the Warhammer world in a way you just don't quite realize.
Yeah. Well, plus, I mean, she's such a wrench to the face of like subverting your expectations of like, I'm sure if you were like introducing like a 40k fan who knows a lot about chaos to fantasy and said, okay, one of the dark gods has a lover, who do you think it is? Khorne would be literally the last person on their list.
Yeah, and which is perfect.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. Fucking love it. BFG 40K, Corn DLC bloodletters with las guns. You know,
Yeah. So this was a very common theme back in Warhammer 3rd edition. In fact, Khorne's thing was that Khorne had tech and hated magic. The other Chaos Gods had magic and didn't use tech. So basically, when you had yourself a Chaos Sorcerer of Tzeentch, las cannon to the face, zap. That was Warhammer rules. And there was a long-standing relationship between 40k and Warhammer, because they were constantly informing each other. And then as Warhammer and 40k diverged and they thought that their bleeding together was damaging for the individual strengths of each IP, that part of Khorne vanished. It stayed in 40k, obviously, because it would. But in Warhammer, it was gone. You still had remnants of it in that you had the big brass war machines, the big brass beasts.
Yeah, your skull cannons and all that.
Yeah, even the juggernauts of Khorne, okay, were like almost big mechanical creatures. When you look at the descriptions for the bloodletters, for example, their skin is as hard as iron, is as hard as metal in many of the descriptions. So there was still remnants of it, but the idea of the Khorne demons being effectively supported by tech vanished as well. So this is, as ridiculous as it sounds, not only grounded in old Warhammer lore, it's also, to agree, gently grounded in current Warhammer lore as well, in that it's hinted at, but not there.
I was going to say, if you made it that they had skull guns instead of las guns,
yeah,
I'd be like, well, I mean, they have skull cannons, so I don't see why not.
Yeah, and I think things like that are fair. If we take a look at, say, for example, the artifacts of the old ones, to put heavy quotation marks around it, that were presented in the Dark Shadows campaign, they were basically 40k artifacts.
Yeah, literally
power
a power fist,
yeah, exactly.
Claw, like, literally like,
but they weren't presented as that. They were presented as fantasy artifacts. And I think that Khorne, to a degree, could benefit from having more Chaos Dwarf-like tech. Not necessarily Chaos Dwarf per se, but at least something which makes them look less stupid. Because in the end, it's just left with an almost petty, yeah, I don't like magic, do I?
Yeah, and it's so interesting because, like, like Andy said, Khorne would not have a problem with tech, which should be reflected. And B, a lot of people get way too obsessed, in my opinion, with the idea that Khorne should be melee only, and that's just not true. Like, Khorne has no issue with ranged combat. So the
Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows.
Yeah, so the fact that there would be like an elite archer or a sniper that uses gunpowder or any of those other concepts. But I would say especially an archer where it's like the strength of their body and everything, pulling back the bow and all that, like Khorne would be all for that. Like it's very odd to me that they I get it, but it's like Khorne could be so much more than just the berserker and melee combat.
It's like saying that Slaanesh is nothing more than, sexy
sex and drugs.
No, Slaanesh is a far bigger, more interesting deity than that alone. And Khorne, similarly, is not just about hacking people up in close combat. As we said, Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows. It's all about the blood.
Yeah. Hardpacks99, do you think we'll ever see Tarmogon's brothers in the old world? We'll probably talk about this more in the Tarmogon stream we're going to come up, but probably not. Because what that would require is Games Workshop would have to dig up what was finished from an author who unfortunately has passed away. And like from Forge World, no less. So like it's a side studio of theirs that they'd have to go like barge in and try and get all of his stuff and then release it. But the problem is like the Tarmogon brothers. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that the Tarmogon brothers aren't in the old world. Tarmogon is not relevant until like 10 years before the end times. Like, so
no.
like the only way I could see it working is if they ended up like, I guess it technically wouldn't be a retcon that they could come in and be like, oh, Tarmogon doesn't happen until like 2512, but maybe his brothers happened 200 years earlier. So I mean, could they? Yeah, but will they? I really doubt it. I really doubt it.
I think the chances of it are extremely low because they're going to want to focus upon the old world. And the old world has got a potential easy 10 years worth of releases for it alone, a second edition built into that as well, before they need to start worrying about that sort of fringe stuff. They've got so much core material that they can be working through that seems to be a pretty unlikely outcome as it currently stands. Of course, we've said that. Doesn't mean it'll never happen. It's just, as it currently stands, it looks exceedingly unlikely for multiple reasons.
Yeah. And then, okay, where's the 4 pre-launch teasers? The pre-launch teasers. I'll look here in a second. Let's see. Chaos Dwarfs also had a very new campaign. Yeah, they do. They have a really fun campaign. Churlish Grin. When will we get a stream discussing Totally Not Ladriel in all those voiceovers? When we do a Ladriel stream, which will probably happen at some point, because we've done the Lady of the Lake.
We've done the Lady.
So we will do Ladriel.
Worth checking the Lady stream on that one, actually. It is also worth saying that, though, that if you are looking for some sort of justification for why they all seem to have South English accents, not just English accents, but South of England accents, beyond saying, well, isn't that where the studio's based, right? You could make some really weird in-game choices to try and justify it.
Yeah, though it would be funny if they're like, oh yeah, the advisor is totally Ladriel, considering she has a very like Asian accent, which would be like, oh okay. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. It'd be funny. I bet some snakemen. My male cousins are cheaters. Ha 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 ha. There's a shorter 6 map min map video after the ogres. Yeah, I believe that's for the Realm of Chaos map. Predator, because I mean, keep in mind, guys, we're going to be playing Total War with Andy in the fairly near future. So, like, you know, it's not the end all.
It's all going to come.
The Predator's role. I love Grimgor, and is the one thing I'm happy with at the end times. But even I think Arcana got shafted in Storm of Chaos. Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah, it's Storm of Chaos. You could almost argue that it was a precursor for what came with the end times. In that there was a potentially really cool scenario that they set up. Really cool scenario, and the whole concept of how it fell down was pretty decent, and then it just went apeshit weird at the end, where you were left with an awful lot of very strange events occurring, some of which didn't make a lot of sense in context, leaving you with an outcome that just left everybody going, really? That's what you went with? And because it was also the core setting for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition, all it did was re-highlight all of those things to an even broader audience at that point. Because Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd edition was pretty goddamn popular in its own corner. And it meant that a whole bunch of people are reading the material and going, what? Why? Yeah. I was there at the time. It was an enjoyable period of Warhammer's history.
Yeah, that certainly was. I remember that summer very well. Elementary exposure. Any tips for finding local roleplay games like The Enemy Within? Local will probably be tricky. I mean, check out your local hobby stores. That's probably gonna be pretty tricky. Now online, if you join the Rat Catchers Guild Discord, which is very easy to find, or the LAWhammer Discord, and then search from there, or my Discord. Discord communities are probably going to be the best place to look.
Yeah, I agree completely. If you've got yourself a local role-playing store, or if you've got yourself any local games clubs, it's very likely that they've got games attached to them. Also, if you've got a university that has any sort of game society, you often find that they often have open sections where you can join in too. But nowadays, the easiest way to get games is just to go online, because there are so many of them available. Not only can you get ones with hopefully people down Rat Catchers or anywhere else who may be advertising games, but you'll find there's a whole bunch of people who actually do it for a living, where they GM for a living and you can join someone else's games. Do be aware, though, that if you've got a poor group for that and you're spending money on it, you can often feel like you're not getting your money's worth. But if you get a good group, it can be some of the wisest investments you can make.
Yeah. And you know, if you're really desperate to play, especially like in person, which I totally get, you know, either maybe try introducing your friends to it, or or if you go to those local hobby stores and they've never heard to it, maybe try to find a group to introduce to it. You know,
and I suppose as a last discussion on this, If you find that you can't get one, you can always vicariously enjoy it by watching the LAWhammer streams, where we play Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay every single week, at least every week we can. We're not playing this week because it's our actual holiday week this week, but we play Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay every single week, and we've just passed our first year. 1 year of playing the same campaign. We're now on to year 2.
That episode was so fucking... It was such a good episode.
Delighted you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it too.
How do you kill Archaon? Hit his Bella core.
That's a bad
one. That's a bad one. So for Hawkins, sex and string guys, any chance you can check out the Norse controller for the end? Fine. All right, fine. Fine. Garen Reynolds. So I have a dumb, silly name. Do I Sotek your last stream? I have no recollection of what you're talking about. So I'm just gonna double down. Love your face. Appreciate you. CB4N. He spent time in Cathay according to Orcslayer. Go check Felix. Yeah. Yeah, but obviously the Cathay lore we have now was not in place yet.
Absolutely wasn't in place.
Belisara 3346. Been watching all for years. You both awesome and have helped me learn so much about Warhammer. Long live Hashit and the Horned Rat. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Thanks.
And Tamarkon and Drazoth co-op campaign. That is certainly an option. I mean, that would be lore accurate. Those two do team up.
Yeah.
Despite saying, oh, I see Gary. Well, you know, listen, I don't think Gary's, I just don't think it's an intimidating name. All right. That's all I'm saying.
Forever chosen.
I'm just saying.
Over here in Scotland, we've got a comedy show it was like 10 years old now, called Gary the Tank Commander. And it's very much pulling on how Gary as a name is not exactly the most military or tough sounding.
But hey, feel free to prove me wrong.
Yeah, totally.
Who is Polex, Loremaster who is Sotek? Go watch our Tanwin Lorebeard stream and you'll learn lots of goodies. And maybe some heretical things while you're there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, because people are throwing money at it, we will watch the Norska. The only other Norska trailer I could find is the opening cinematic for his campaign. So, I assume that's what you guys are talking about. So, we will watch it just because a lot of people have super chatted about it. And I think at that point, we can get Andy to bed because it's quite late.
It is indeed. It's now 3:30 in the morning over here.
Yeah. So let's wrap up with.
No, we can't. We've got one more thing we have to do before we stop.
The Skaven scribe.
Don't forget the Skaven.
All right, Norska then Skaven scribe. All right.
Yeah, totally. Right, let's go.
Here we go.
Those in the north are closest to the gods.
Dodgy Johan.
Their lands lie within the ebbing shadow of chaos. The tribes of Norska are fierce, for in the land of monsters and ice, where no crops grow, they have to be. Thus, I have come to guide their raw talent. Why waste such savagery on each other, while the southern lands are ripe for ravaging?
For ravaging.
For ravaging.
Just waiting. I'll say, Wolfric 1v1ing a giant, fucking scary.
Looks like a space wolf.
The old world calls. Ripe for our taking.
Chaos Frost Dragon.
We fought monsters.
Oh, hell yeah.
And we became them.
Norska was such a fascinating roster that they threw together.
Like, that was the first game, wasn't it?
Yes.
One. Yeah, because I remember that coming out.
Yeah, it was the pre-order bonus for Warhammer 2 as well, which was really funny. Where if you bought Warhammer 2, you pre-ordered Warhammer 2, you got Norska for free for Warhammer 1. But Norska was such a fascinating motley horde as far as like, because when I first heard about it, I was like, how the hell are they going to do a Norska when we've got Warriors of Chaos? And then they were like, yes, we've got like the Norska Warriors. And then they're like, all right, give me some Famir, give me some like ice trolls, give me all the werekin, and like it's like, oh, okay, we're pulling from everywhere.
Everything. Yeah.
Which like I do agree with a lot of the criticisms that I really think the faction would be much more appropriately called the Tribes of Chaos as opposed to just Norska, because it definitely
Chaos Marauders.
Yeah, or Chaos Marauders, because it definitely pulls in a lot of concepts that are not necessarily just Norska.
Yeah, so I remember when this came out, which feels like a bajillion years ago now. How long ago would that have been? And it doesn't
a while back.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty long time ago. But yeah, so it's just before Total War 2, I
guess. I would say 5 or 6 years ago now.
Yeah, whatever. I remember when it came out. And I remember getting quite excited by the idea of what they might do with Norska, because I'd helped develop the Tome of Corruption for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay 2nd Edition. It had an entire Norska section in it. And I'd also mapped Norska a couple of times. And I'll admit, when it came out, I felt a little bit like, it's just Chaos Marauders. This doesn't feel like Norska. This feels like chaos. And I was left feeling a little bit meh about it. Sure, it's super fun, and it was lots of nice units all getting piled together, but I agree it was very, very patchy.
Well, I will say this to you, Andy, though I can't promise anything, but I have been fighting the good fight to try and get a Norska expansion. And one of the things I would really love for them to push for, as far as for Norska, like, in the community we've had a lot of talks about, like, the hope is to get like 3 more legendary lords for Norska. Give us like a Famir Matriarch, like the Muna Mim character that got introduced by Cubicle 7, and then give us like Sile the Faithless from the Tarmakon book as like your big mammoth character with Chaos Spawn and stuff. But then the big thing that I've been arguing really strong for is doing Bjorg Bearstruck as your Werebear legendary lord. But with him focusing on kind of his mercenary background of him representing the concept of the Norska that does not care as much about chaos. The Norska that's more about trade and working together with the Southerners and being more of like a mercenary force. That's because like Bjorg Bearstruck is not like these guys. He's different. Now, granted, he does still acknowledge the Chaos God powers, but he's not like a horrifying word. He's not Wolfric the Wanderer. Man, I've been fighting because what was fun about Norska is they did do some interesting things with them. Where when Norska was introduced, they were the only Chaos faction that was allowed to trade. They were the only Chaos faction that was actually allowed to do diplomacy with non-Chaos factions, whereas the Warriors of Chaos couldn't, just flat out. Now they've changed that a lot since then, but Norska is also the only Game 1 faction that has not received a rework. So they're still the exact same as they have been, but I've had it confirmed 100% that at some point in the future they are going to do a big rework for Norska. So I'm hoping we can get more of the nuanced Norska.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, instead of just Warriors of Chaos light.
Yeah, totally. Because they're Chaos Marauders. And that is slightly disappointing because Norska is so much more than that. It'd be a little bit like getting an Empire army and only receiving the army of Nuln and saying, that's the Empire. I'm going, no, that's just Nuln.
Yeah. I was in the play. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, but people are asking for this one specific. And don't worry about it, Hammond. You're fine. The cinematic trailer for Norska, we did that last week. So if you go watch on the LAWhammer channel, the part 1 to this little series, we watched the cinematic trailer for Norska last week. Then Belisara, will either of you ever make videos on food/agriculture and Warhammer Fantasy? Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. Particularly given that there's a number of faction species folks that have to as we discussed, say, for example, in the Zar Nagaran pardon me, Lorebeard's episode, they have to feed their people in non-traditional ways. And by that, I mean in ways that are different to how we've done it in the real world, because of the environment they live in, because of the nature of their species, or whatever else it may be. So, yeah, I think there could actually be quite a lot on that. Although, equally, if we're not careful, it would be really dull. So we'd have to make sure that there was a good angle there.
Yeah, I don't necessarily foresee us doing a food-themed Lorebeards episode unless I somehow managed to get my camera into the kitchen and we were cooking some weird shit. But maybe one day in a distant future, very distant future, but I suppose it's possible. But what I will say is that it's a fun thing to explore and to have a lot of fun with, because ultimately that's something Games Workshop is just never going to touch, because for the sake of the war game, they don't care about things like that.
Yeah.
So that's only something you'd see maybe fleshed out in like the role-playing game.
Role-playing game.
But even those tend to be pretty light on how they touch on it.
Particularly when you consider just how big the empire is, but at that same point, how much of it's infested with horrors that ensures that agriculture can't happen in the same way that it does in the real world.
Yeah. And that being said, though, whenever we're doing Lorebeards episodes, if it's relevant to what we're chatting about, feel free to throw in
it'll be right in there.
And we'd love to take a look at them. CB4 and still load. Andy, where did you write about the Zotes?
Okay, so I haven't published pretty much any of my Zote stuff ever. I made reference here or there inside some of my work, but not anything that's been published officially, at least. I did, however, for Warpstone magazine, which was a magazine that was a fanzine for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I did some illustrations of Zotes for that, because I helped do some for that. It was a very unique version. I think it was written by Robin Lowe, off the top of my head. A very unique version of what the Zotes could be that was strongly influenced from the 40k lore for Zotes as it existed at that time, and tying them into the existing Warhammer lore of the time. So it's definitely a different take. Worth having a look at if you can find any of the old PDFs or similar for the old Warpstone magazine. But my Zote material wasn't published.
Yeah, Warpstone material, Warpstone magazine, those can be a little tricky to find, but they're out there.
They are. And it's also fair to say that a lot of the lore it draws upon is very old in terms of its style. So you might find that when you read it, you're like, what the? This is not Warhammer as I know it. And you're right, it's not Warhammer as you know it. It's Warhammer as it was back with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay first edition, with some creeping extra details from, say, second edition and onwards, but the vast majority of it is very Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay first edition facing.
Yeah, that's why there's a very, very infamous whole incident of me throwing hands with the Warpstone magazine version of Famir in a Denny's parking lot.
The Famir from...
I grossly disagreed and disliked their interpretation of the Famir.
And it was it pretty much was the death knell of that magazine as well. That particular issue, it was the one that Games Workshop, I would argue, took more issue with than some of the other things that it produced. The Fimmer, that was an episode.
Fun magazine though, like there is a lot of good stuff there.
The whole magazine is just dedicated to that. It's like 100 pages or so of Fimmer material.
Yeah,
like
there's
a ton. Yeah, an absolute ton in there.
You guys really helped sell me this setting. Oh, I'm glad we could do that for you. Specifically, the idea that it isn't as rigid, i.e., something will always happen, as people present it as. Yeah, I mean, that's, one of the biggest problems, I would say, with the Warhammer community at large is they will, and it's just because the way I think people's brains work, and what kind of makes Warhammer unique, they will try to sell you or force you into an idea of canon, and it's just not there. Because like that, and that's the thing, I forget what it is, but that fallacy where it's like people who don't know a lot about something, but they know a little bit, think they know a lot about the subject, but then when they learn a lot about the subject, they realize that no, they don't know actually that much. That's Warhammer lore in a nutshell.
Can't agree with that more. There is nothing like working on a product officially to make you realize just how much is made up anyway. And it frees up your creative opinion of what Warhammer is and should be. The number of times I found myself, particularly when I was posting underneath an idea or whatever online, say Epimacies, which is one of my old IDs that I used to use.
Dunning-Kruger effect. Thank you. Yeah.
The number of times I'd be posting on that, and I'd be posting about something that I myself wrote, I think it's fair to say that I would be the authority on that. And they would come back at me saying, no, actually, it's this because of the book that you wrote. It says this. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. People have their own versions of what the lore says, and they will often ram it down other people's throats because they get invested in that version of the setting, which for Warhammer is always going to be ultimately disappointing because Games Workshop will rewrite it. So you'll find there's a host of fans of the first edition or the third edition or the sixth edition or whatever version of the lore. And when the new stuff comes in, they can't help but bitterly say, no, that's not what the lore is. It's definitely something else. But that's the lore that they think is correct. Just was a rewrite of something that came before it, which is a rewrite of something that came before that. So yeah, it's an amorphous thing is Warhammer lore. And if you try to say that it is definitely rigid, you are definitely going down.
You're gonna have a bad time.
You are going to get upset.
Yeah, there's a large chunk of people being real butthurt right now that female custodians have always been a thing, according to GW now. Which there it is.
It's actually hilarious how many people are annoyed by that, given Games Workshop's past history. But a lot of people are very annoyed about that, much as they were very annoyed about, let's say, Eltharion the Grim being Eltharion the Blind. They were like, where did that come from? And then Eltharion the Blind becoming Eltharion the Grim.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's just things change. Like, and you gotta roll. If you don't roll with the punches, like you're gonna have a horrible time in this setting. This is not Lord of the Rings. It is not a singular author who dedicated a portion of his life to it, and then no one else was basically allowed to work on it. And if they did anything like super different from what he did, it's sacrilegious and heresy. Warhammer just isn't that, which is good. Like, I honestly think that's one of the strengths of the setting, even though it can feel like a weakness sometimes.
On a personal front, I would like it all to make sense. I think
that'd be great.
Stronger for that. I think it would be better if it did. But that doesn't mean that I don't accept that it's not that, because it isn't. So whenever I work on it, or at least have worked on it, because I've kind of moved on from that now, but whenever I worked on it, I would always try to make sure that whatever I added didn't contradict what was already out there. I could have changed it, because many writers did. But if I was involved with it, I always made sure that it married up and made sense, because that's my preference. But that doesn't mean that my preference in any way influences the people that you work for.
Yeah, and it's just like getting to do Lore Bears with Andy is literally just the highlight of like trying to make things fit together that were never designed to do so, and see what kind of cool shapes we get out of it. And it's been fucking fun. Like, I love it. Like,
a lot of fun.
If you had approached me from 10 years ago and walked up and been like, hey, what do you think of the theory that Hashit is maybe a demon prince? I would have been like, that is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. But when me and Andy hash it out, we talk through it, we go, no, this actually works really well. Like, this is a fucking cool story. And that's just the nature of it. Like, the idea of Malachi Makaisen leading a dwarf army, I think maybe a year ago, I was like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, he shouldn't be leading armies. No, like, dwarf throngs wouldn't be following him. He has his model was literally just a crew for a war machine.
Yeah.
But then when I saw the angle they were taking on it, and they're like, hey, we're doing the Slayer Throng from the Storm of Chaos, and we've already used Ungrim, and we'd like to use one of the other characters, and an engineer character would fill that role better, and it's a very engineer Slayer focused DLC. I went, no, this is perfect. This makes perfect sense. I like this a lot.
Yep.
Like, you just gotta, All right, last super chat, and then everyone's going to bed. For exposure. Or you don't have to go to bed, but you can't stay here. I read in some Go Trick and Felix novel that showed many possible universes, such as one where Story got crushed by a troll. Can I say the world survived the end times based in at least one of those? Yeah, absolutely. Like, if you want to run a headcanon in your mind that the end times failed and the world carried on, or the Storm of Chaos happened, and you're like, I like this version of the story better, and that's the version you want to add to and have fun with, sure, but don't get angry at people that are following the more recently published stuff.
Yeah, totally. So I'll end on this one with a particular anecdote, because hey, why not? We're at the end of a very long evening. It's 3:45 in the morning at this side.
Ooh, Christ.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. So way before the end times was even a thing, a glimmer in Games Workshop's eye, I was running a Warhammer Fantasy roleplay campaign, and I was writing for the Warhammer game. And I was in the process of blowing my world up, because Warhammer has always been, even when it was at its genesis, all the way back in 3rd edition, as it was forming the version of what it was, at the end of the day, a 5 minutes to midnight setting. And that means it was a setting that was effectively saying that the end of the world is almost here and chaos is going to win. So I decided in this version of the campaign that I would blow my world up. But the Aether is pretty much infinite. Time doesn't exist there. And in my world, in this particular version of the Warhammer world, there were various entities who were capable of utilizing this. And in this particular version of the world, Nagash was seeking to avoid the end of the world, and effectively created multiple versions of the Warhammer world in an attempt to escape the inevitability of what was to come. And that would be one way that you could view the end not necessarily being the end. Now, amusingly, in my version of the Warhammer world, pretty much everything that happened in the end times, in terms of the incarnates and all the crazy stuff, it happened in my game some 7 years before the end times came. In a very different way, with a story that was completely different, but nevertheless, it all happened. You might be very bemused and horrified to learn that part of the climax of that particular game was assaulting Terra. But the less said about that, the better. Warhammer 2.40k. It was fucking awesome. But that's a ridiculous game. And for your own games at home, you can do anything. Because that's the whole point of it. So I would say to you that yes, for your own headcanons and your own games, please do indeed make the end times not a thing. And if you wish, come up with a reason for why they're not a thing and can still be the thing at the same time. We did it for our game before the end times even were a thing. So yeah, don't feel bad about it. Go for it.
Mr. Varn, I'm glad you and the armies of Nuln are out there committing war crimes, as it should be, in Sigmar's name.
In Sigmar's name.
Yeah, and I'll add one further note, just for funsies, of canonically in Age of Sigmar, if you go read Blood in the Old World, go track Blood in the Old World, there is a MacGuffin that I don't want to get too into for spoiler reasons, but there is a MacGuffin that the story basically introduces that gives Gotrek the ability to go back to the world that was and prevent the end times from happening.
Freaking hilarious. That's the sort of shit I'd pull.
Yeah,
one of my crazy games.
And of course, because it's a Gotrek book, it's tragic as fuck. And obviously he doesn't do it for certain reasons, but it's got a whole thing about how Tzeentch also wants to go back and stop the end times from happening or make it happen in a different way to influence the future. And it's fucking cool. But like shit like that happens in the canon. So if you want to have it where in your world something happened that duplicated the world or saved it or altered it, yeah, that's not a huge leap.
Yeah,
really
damn
isn't.
straight. So yeah, don't feel bad for wanting to reimagine things, because lots of writers have already done it.
Yep. All right, we're getting out of here. Malachi's taking Hell Pit. Oh man, he's gonna have a lot of cleaning to do. Just burn it all.
Well, thanks all. That was super fun.
Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us, and everyone, if y'all could please give Andy a super big special thanks for staying up so fucking late over where he is. Because it is very late over there.
It is pretty late over there. And if you want to say thanks in a way you wouldn't expect, I suggest there's two ways you could do that. Number one would be to immediately subscribe to Sotek's channel if you haven't done so already. Because
means LAWhammer.
seriously, no, I mean Sotek's channel.
No,
because
he meant LAWhammer.
we speak about LAWhammer all the time, and because my channel's got hardly anyone following it in comparison to his. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't subscribe to Sotek if you haven't done so already, because you bloody should. But beyond that, Dark Deeds is available for pre-order.
Yeah, and that it's genuinely a great way to support Andy and many of Andy's close friends and the business he runs, while also getting something really fucking cool for yourself. So it's like, think of it like merch, except for you actually get an awesome, high quality playable game out of it instead of just a piece of shit t-shirt.
Damn straight. Freaking gorgeous, this game. Just
I'm so
lovely.
excited for when it ships. I'm genuinely.
Yeah.
I found a bar. I actually made some new friends.
Oh, no, lovely.
There's a bar called like D20 something, but it's a bar that they let you bring your dogs and they let you play and bring your own board games. How do you pre-order Dark Deeds? Hammond, do the thing. Or sorry, Hawk, do the thing. Hammond,
not Hammond.
Not Hammond. I mean, if Hammond wants to do his thing, he can. But Hawk, do the thing.
Okay, so if you can't find it, I will quickly grab it before you go. Let's see if I beat Hawk to it. I don't know where I've got it. Oh, I've got the wrong page open. Hawk might win. Oh, Hawk might win. Hawk's giving it a go. Hawk's on the move. He's going to totally beat me. Oh, I can't even see the screen now because I'm on the wrong page.
Hawk has to pull away from D&D.
Oh, well, let's see who wins. Here it is. Here it is. I've got it.
Yeah, well, on Twitch chat, I could just I could just make Nightbot bring it up.
Did I win? I won!
Yes, you did, just barely. Hawk's like, I'm trying to have a social life. Leave me alone.
Thanks, nevertheless, Hawk.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, there's the link in YouTube chat and Twitch chat.
Okay, so that's oh, in fact, that link hasn't got a
and
space
Churlish Grin,
there.
hey, fucking thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
I'm going to put an extra space in there because it didn't properly space there.
Okay, there you go.
Links. So hopefully that'll be better.
Churlish,
so,
you're about to pick that up. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's massively appreciated. Thank you so much.
All right. Anyway,
right. Anywho, we should go. Thanks all. You're all the best.
See you on Sunday, 10 a.m. CST, 4 p.m. BST, the normal place and time. Over on LAWhammer. It'll be on LAWhammer.
LAWhammer's channel.
If the vote does not change significantly, we'll be talking about dwarfs, but there's a chance we'll talk about Elspeth. I think they're kind of neck and neck right now. So I'm kind of hoping. I'm kind of hoping for Nolan and Elspeth. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I really like Elspeth. Elspeth Van Draken's a character that I really quite enjoy. So
yeah, but we're kind of talk about. But we'll get to it anyway. Talk about the Countess von Leibowitz, which I'm very excited about.
I do love the Countess.
Because a lot of people do not realize what the fuck that lady is. They think she's just a party girl. No. One of the most important characters in the Empire. Anyway, we're out of here. Thank you so much for watching. Love you all.
See you all later.
We appreciate the support, and we'll see you later.
Bye. Bye.